happening, everybody? It is Critical Mess. It is episode 24. This is the podcast where some hombres in the ad business rap about movies that critics and audiences don't agree on. I am Nick Honeywell. I'm here with Grizz Griswold, Brian McCullough, producer Ben. Say what's up, guys.
Hey, what's up? It's Brian McCullough here. The best Woody Allen movie is Match Point. It will shock you if you've not seen it. Put it on your list.
I'm going to add it to my list. This is Grizz. Welcome.
This is Ben. Hey, what's up?
Hey, Ben.
I never know if I should talk.
Always talk.
Yeah.
Please talk, Ben.
Please don't.
All right, gents, let's break the ice here. So I wanna date ourselves a little bit for our impromptu icebreaker. So here it comes. What's the first DVD you bought, and why did you buy it?
Lethal Weapon 4. And I didn't buy it. I bought a DVD player that came with it. Does that count?
I think it's got to, and that's the great reason.
Okay. I had Lost in Space, Lethal Weapon 4, and one other movie. I can't remember that these three came with my ProScan DVD player that I bought at cost at Circuit City.
Yeah, I don't remember buying DVDs, honestly. I used to borrow all my movies from my uncles. They always had like the rated R and the PG-13 movies I couldn't watch. So I remember like grabbing all the movies from their apartments or their houses or whatever when I was younger. But I don't remember.
All right, Ben, what's your answer?
So none.
Mine was Austin Powers.
Thank you.
It's a
International
dead
Man
media.
of Mystery.
Thank you for having an
It was
answer.
a Blu-ray DVD, and my second one was Blue Streak.
Wait,
Nice.
you bought your first DVD purchase was Blu-ray?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, I feel really old.
Yeah, no kidding.
What about you, Nick?
My first DVD was Boiler Room.
Ooh, Giovanni Ribisi.
Great.
Yes, and I bought it because I saw it in the theater and I thought it was fucking awesome. It was like the perfect age to see that silly Wall Street movie. So, anyways, still, I think it's actually still a pretty good movie. Honestly, it's not a great movie, and the ending is not good at all, but still just a fun movie. Anyway, okay, we're gonna do another icebreaker here real quick. This one we have prepared for. This is courtesy of Mr. McCullough, but
Grizz, you better have an answer to this.
yeah, you ready for this one, Grizz?
Let me check my notes.
Oh my gosh.
The question in question is, what is the best and worst Steven Spielberg film? Who wants to go?
I'll go. I think the easiest for me is the worst. It's either West Side Story or Ready Player One. I think I'm going to go Ready Player One just because of what it could have been and what it ended up being. West Side Story couldn't have really been anything, I suppose. But both bad movies. Best movie, man, that's a tough one. I'm torn between, objectively, probably Jaws, but that's not my answer. I think I've got to go. It was a toss-up between Jurassic Park, Minority Report, and Saving Private Ryan. And Schindler's List. Yeah, it's so good. I'm going to go Saving Private Ryan.
Damn it. That was my pick for best, was
Nice.
Saving Private Ryan. So I was
Great
so
movie.
good.
It holds up. It looks like it was just made yesterday.
Yep.
The stories are just, what a masterful movie.
Yeah, even though this one was fun, on my worst list was Lost World, the second Jurassic Park. Even though it was a lot of fun, you couldn't match like the first, and so I think it fell flat. So.
Is that the one where the Velociraptor looks at the dude on the plane and goes, Alan?
Yeah, he wakes him up. Yeah.
Or is that that's not the third one, is it?
Is it Vince Vaughn's in that, right?
Yeah, Vince Vaughn plays
yeah.
the primary.
Yeah, that was bad.
It was rough.
That was
yeah,
bad.
Going back and watching it again was real bad.
Yeah, damn, I might change my answer to that. I forgot he did that.
Yeah.
I'm going to go a little bit contrarian with my worst. It's just a movie I saw in the theater and I really didn't like, even though it got, I think, pretty good reviews, and that was Munich. I thought it was extremely boring.
I thought it was boring but good. Okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Wait, what did you rate Crystal Skull?
9.
Is that not your answer? Or is that too easy? Is that too low-hanging fruit?
I assumed it was too easy for both of you to answer that.
Probably good.
Yeah, Although
Sorry,
I should have,
I'm not
because
doubting your answer.
That's a a nice throwback to the last episode. But I guess if when you say that, if I were to rate both on a 100-point scale, I don't know that I would come in lower with Munich, but I might.
Yeah, no,
I really didn't.
Wow,
I
really?
really did, but once again, it's been a long time since
I'm a
seen it.
sucker for Eric Bana, like I said, but I added that to my watch list this week.
Yeah, and once again, I was a young man when I saw it, so I might have changed, but I just remember really not liking that movie. Best, I feel like you said, Brian. I don't know how I couldn't say Jaws.
I know.
Actually,
I know.
I just I don't know, and I would say the other one you mentioned that I think has to be in the conversation that I think is a habitually underrated movie is Minority Report.
Yeah.
I think that is a stunningly amazing movie. Tom Cruise's best movie probably, and that I think is saying something.
I could see that argument. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you look at a movie like that, and then you look at a contemporary movie like I Am Legend. Or no, I'm sorry, iRobot. Let's go iRobot. Very similar style of movies came out right around the same time. One of those aged extremely well. The other did not. So I think it's a testament to its craftsmanship.
Gosh, I really enjoyed iRobot. I was the only one.
I enjoyed it, but I don't enjoy it.
It's been a while.
I enjoyed it, but I just haven't seen it in years.
It's Minority Report is like a bourbon.
I'll never forget
barrel aged bourbon. And and iRobot's like a really good like lager in a bottle. Like ain't gonna age.
Yeah, sure.
I'll never forget the eyeball scene, like the CG on that.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
the early CG
Minority
on that was
Report,
actually really done well. Yeah,
And that's
Yeah,
Peter
it was.
Peter Stormare, a great Peter Stormare scene. Yeah.
Great character actor. Okay, so we're talking about a movie tonight. We're going to spoil this movie. It's a new movie, so watch out. Here's another just little thing I think we need to start saying is that please watch the movie before you listen to the podcast. I think you're really going to track with us a lot better and have more fun. Or don't. Don't listen
Guys,
to
this
me.
one's on Netflix. If you don't have Netflix, you at least have someone's account. And
Yeah.
you can watch it on 1.5 speed for God's sake at the very least. So just go spend an hour and 10 and come back to us. It's worth it.
Exactly what Brian said. So tonight we're talking about a film from last year, which would be 2023. It's called Leave the World Behind. And boy, do I wish I could have left this movie behind.
Wow. Spoilers.
ouch.
Netflix doesn't really tell us shit about the budget or box office, so at least not this soon after the film's release. They do kind of say how many people watched it. I think it was 40 million streams or a little over that, but don't know if this thing is doing well relative to the budget. Didn't look cheap, though. I'll say that. Directed by Sam Esmail, who also wrote the screenplay. It is based on a book, but he did the adaptation. Stars some famous people. Julia Roberts, Ethan Hawke, Mahershala Ali, and Kevin Bacon would be the leads. Well, Kevin Bacon is, I wouldn't say exactly a lead, but he's a famous guy in this movie.
If you said two more names, you would have said the entire cast from
It
start
was a
to
small
finish.
cast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely
deer.
a small cast.
Well, okay.
Well, that, yeah.
A flamingo.
Flamingo.
Which wasn't even fucking real and looked terrible. So,
Agree.
anyway,
Yeah.
a quick refresher about our criteria for the movies we talk about. So the movie's got to be fresh with audiences and rotten with critics on Rotten Tomatoes or vice versa, and that disparity's got to be like about 20% or so at least. So this movie is a inconceivable 76% with critics and a little more realistic 34%
I can't believe it's not higher.
with audiences. Oh my gosh, is this going to be another one of those nights? So we are talking a 40% gap here, right? So I wouldn't be surprised. This one is going to get divisive. So let's get into this. I'm assuming we haven't seen this movie like a bunch of times, but when was the first time we saw this movie, and how many times have we seen it?
I saw it a couple weeks ago when it came out, and then I watched it again yesterday. So twice. I'm ready to talk about it.
Yeah, I watched it maybe a month ago, and then I watched it again with my wife. I typically will rewatch a movie with her. She's very discerning with movies. Like, it's got to be worth her time. And I really like that about her. And it makes me excited to show a movie to her. So then we watched it again, and then I actually watched it a third time yesterday to kind of do my full dissection and eyes glued to the screen, analysis. 3 times.
All right, I watched it once.
Begrudgingly.
It was last night. Okay, so before we keep moving, I just want to give a special shout out to our sponsor. How lucky are we, guys, to be sponsored by probably the best of the best in the whiskey game?
I mean, I just took a sip, and it's the best of the best.
Just pure velvet. What was the word I think I used to describe it?
Ambrosial.
Ambrosial, that's what it was.
Yep.
Or divine. Yeah.
Excelsius?
Celsius level.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. But that's okay.
Gray's got happy because
Excelsior.
he thought you said Celsius, and he got excited
I
because he
did
thought
get-
there was energy drinks being consumed. Excelsior, Ambrosial.
Yes,
I'll look
indeed.
both of those words up after the podcast.
Okay.
Please.
Look at
Yes,
that
but
color.
Old Elk straight wheat whiskey. It is buttery smooth and we couldn't be happier to be sipping on it tonight. Okay, guys, let's rate this thing. Let's just do it. Rip the Band-Aid off.
Let's hear it, Brian.
I fucking loved this movie. I liked it better each time I watched it. And you know,
Big space. I'm sorry.
there are, when we flip the script, I'll say the probably about 3 things that I didn't like about the movie, which are what took the points off for me. But I'm going to give this maybe the second highest review of all the movies we've done. I don't remember what they all were. I think my highest was maybe The Last Jedi. I don't remember.
92, 3, something like
Yeah,
that.
93. This is a 92 for me. Whoa. So 92. It's not often that I give that review, but 92.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm going to also rate it high. I did knock it down on second watch for a couple of small things. We'll talk about and flip the script. But I went from a 92 to an 88.
Oh,
so
okay.
88 out of 100.
You were at a 92?
I was at a
You went down to
92.
88?
After first watch, I was like, fuck, that was good. It was great. And I just kept thinking about it. And then on second watch, a lot of things I loved about it. But some of the acting just kind of knocked it off for me. So, but 88 out of 100 is pretty damn strong.
I knew you liked it. I could just tell.
Yeah.
All right, Nick, lay it on us.
All right, guys.
Oh boy.
This is going to be our our biggest gapper. So I don't know. I thought yesterday was a weird day. I might have been in a weird mood. I don't know. But I hated this movie, and I thought there were, and we'll obviously get into this more. I honestly am going to understand, I think, why you guys liked it, because I think I could see why someone might like this movie weirdly. And obviously from an artistic perspective, it did a lot of kind of beautiful and interesting things, but I loathed this experience watching this film. And I thought, did I hate it more than Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull? You know, which I gave a 9 last week, which was a particularly scathing.
I believe that's your lowest so far.
Definitely the lowest by
By
a lot.
any of us, right?
I think so. I don't think I've been in the teens.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I don't think I've been. I don't even think I've been in the teens actually, or below.
Yeah, I've been in the teens for sure.
Somebody
once.
should be documenting this.
Yeah, we
Is there a
should.
spreadsheet?
Yeah.
April.
Yeah, somebody get on the math.
So I was thinking about that, and obviously I hated that movie, and I loathed that movie. But it didn't make me angry, and this movie made me angry.
You and every audience member.
Yeah. Yes. So anyways, so I'm giving it an 8. I'm giving it an 8.
He went there.
I'm
Damn.
giving it.
He went there.
I'm giving it a lower score. It's my new low. And I don't think this is hyperbole. I really don't. I dislike this movie that much.
You're
I
a
really
grumpy
did.
old man in the holidays.
Call it what you will.
I think we can right at the outset here, and I mean nothing by this, but just calling it out. You know, we talk about rating movies based on our enjoyment level versus like a critical eye, and there's not one right or wrong way. I think we just tend to gravitate to whichever we do, and I don't think there's, like I said, I can't tell you there's a right or wrong way to like a movie. Even though I tell that to the audience members every week. But anyway, I'm not going to tell you guys who I respect that. But I will say that it sounds like you're weighting your emotional response pretty highly to the movie, rightly so. Which
Very much
yeah,
so.
Yeah,
Obviously, very much
like
so.
obviously we'll get into it, and maybe you'll have other things that's like, well, actually this was bad from a screenplay, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sure you got plenty of points.
For me,
but
knowing you're a writer, I had a feeling that you were going to rate this low. Not that low, but I knew you were going to rate it low because of possibly the screenplay or the writing or the whatever it is. But I think that we'll get into it later.
yeah,
But
okay. So 8, 88, 92. All right.
nice.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. We
Quite
got
the
some stuff to talk about.
If the rest of this podcast isn't fucking awesome, shame on us.
No kidding. Well, let's talk about the critics.
Are you calling the critics idiots? Was that a Freudian slip? the critics?
I said maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Critics.
yeah, thanks.
Well,
for giving
let's
me
hear what
credit
the
there.
audience think. The
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yes. Let's just hear what people think about this film, whether they be paid to write about it or not. Brian, let's. I think we usually start with critics, right?
Yeah, critics' consensus. An exceptionally well-acted apocalyptic thriller, Leave the World Behind steadily draws the viewer in despite its leisurely pace and somewhat simplistic messaging. Simplistic messaging. We'll come back to that, because I both agree and disagree with that. I've got 5 here that I've selected that kind of represent different ways to talk about this movie. First one, Michael O'Sullivan, Washington Post. It plays like an M. Night Shyamalan movie, but without the supernatural element and with a thick vein of social critique running throughout. What happens may be extreme, but it feels based on mundane reality. Did this feel like an M. Night Shyamalan movie to you guys?
A little
Did it
bit.
have
I could
vibes?
see that. I think in kind of the sort of the artistic, the cinematography, kind of the way the shots were. I mean, I'll give the movie some credit in that, you know, it had some beautiful shots. It had some interesting shots. And I think Shyamalan, as I like to call him,
Yeah.
Shyamalan.
you know, does a lot of the same kind of stuff. I think it's a good analogy because he makes some shitty movies that look nice.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Did you get any Shyamalan
Yeah,
vibes?
I guess I could because of the whole. I read a couple reviews, but like the biggest word that I saw in a couple like audience reviews was like edging. So the opposite. Like,
Yeah.
So the funniest thing was like the whole movie was leading to something and something and something, and then it. Spoiler alert for anybody, but it leads to essentially nothing. But when you look back and you rewatch, I think there were a lot of things that I thought would give enough to the audience to know how the movie would get to an ending. Like you could imagine an ending.
That's a
from
good
a lot
word,
of different
edging.
ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that I agree. Shyamalan, you know, he's got that eerie vibe. A lot of times they're smaller movies.
Yeah.
And he doesn't reveal. There's always mystery that's being
plenty of it.
unfurled
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's what this was channeling. I do think this was a much better movie than every Shyamalan movie but one.
Yeah, I think it's the thought-provoking aspect of this is what got me entertained in it.
David Fear, Rolling Stone, which is interesting because usually you hear Peter Travers, Rolling Stone, but it's David Fear, Rolling Stone. And I know I'm not saying that Rolling Stone is a good publication. Matter of fact, I just lambasted it in a text to and Nick described it as a rag, and I agreed with him. But still, this is a critic, professionally paid critic. The seeds of our destruction have already been planted by us. And the more that Leave the World Behind pokes at that notion, the more you feel that this isn't a thriller. It could be a documentary with movie stars. Did this feel realistic to you? The way that it did not.
no.
It did not feel realistic
this
at
felt
all.
exact. This is the first time ever where I've thought, okay, I could see that literally happening tomorrow.
Also look at Die Hard 4. Do you guys remember? I think it was Die Hard 4 had like the exact same premise. And it was talking about like there were the three aspects of a cyber attack.
I didn't.
And he ran through. Oh God, what is his name now? I can't remember. But it kind of explained it to John McClane. He's like, oh, these are the three acts of a terrorist attack or a cyber attack, and it kind of roughly went through the same thing. And he goes, by 3, total meltdown, civil war, like all those things. So this was just a greater example of that.
Yeah, I agree. I thought this is the closest that a disaster or apocalyptic movie has ever felt to what would actually happen.
Well, I guess. Okay, maybe we're talking about this a little bit differently. So I'm talking about more of the physical reality of the situation, like having 2 planes crash right on top of each other, having all
that
the
makes
way
the most sense to me because a lot of those planes are on navigational or they're on set courses. So they're going to continue to fly towards specific land or specific landing like areas.
Oh, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
So yeah, they're going to continue to go down the same path. That's why
if
the
they
house
were in the
was
same
destroyed.
place to begin with, that would make sense.
Well, they're all going.
Well,
towards,
you're saying there's air flight.
If you look at air patterns, they're not just sporadic. They're all within the same exact
I
air
understand that
channels
they
and all
go.
that
They
stuff.
do. I
So they're all
understand,
probably
but
going
the
to
planes
Jersey.
aren't flying on top of each other. One's way behind the other one.
Yeah,
and if they both go down at the same time, one goes down here and the other one goes down here, not right on top of each other.
Okay. Okay. Hey, we could have a debate just on this.
Yeah.
Because first of all, I thought that was unrealistic until you just made me realize actually that's more realistic. The fact that they'd go down at the same time, but you're saying not the same time, which interesting.
I mean, same.
I think we're getting in the weeds a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, but still, I think it was realistic just from the whole cyber attack thing. Like that's a real thing we have to worry about in the future.
The Tesla's thing was fucking stupid. That made no sense.
Brian, as a Tesla owner,
that was just all that was just like a play on that big thing. You know, this is a big media story a year or two ago that was like, what if, people hack all our cars and then they start slamming them into each other? That's what this movie was. It was an amalgamation of all the fear-mongering that's been going on for the last 5 or so years and all the things that we're scared about and smashing them all into one movie. Like all the bad shit happens at once and the bad guys somehow figured out how to trigger every single thing we're scared of at the same time. My head's going to explode.
This is in my notes, but do we add to the idea of who was the executive producers on this?
We're going to get to that. We're not getting into that.
Okay.
Yeah. We're not getting into that right now. Yeah.
That's actually going to come up in the audience reviews.
Okay, cool.
But so Nick, I hear what you're saying, but what I'm thinking is I'm going to sit down and write a disaster movie. Do I write Don't Look Up, where there's a meteor that's going to come down, which has been done 100 times? Do I write World War III, Cold War? What do I like? How much can you really do that results in the end of the world? And here, I think somebody said, okay, well, we do have. I mean, do you know how many Teslas there are? There are millions of Teslas. It's the number one selling car. Well, I fact check me on that, but it's way up there. I think it's it's huge. There's so many of them, and they all are fully connected, fully hackable, and they're all fully self-drivable. So that to me was the most realistic. Now, what's not realistic is the fact that was there a Tesla dealership in that weird little island, and you could get. I mean, there's a lot of them.
How about why were they all white?
They
Well,
just came from a dealership.
And
I assume.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because as the owner of a white Tesla, the reason I own a white Tesla is because white is by far the most selling Tesla color because it's the only one that you don't have to pay extra for the color of, and it's the only one that comes under the $7,500 tax credit to where you can get the performance model and still come under that threshold. And so you'll see mostly white Teslas out there. Now I agree. Maybe there should have been some other colors, but I think it's more realistic that there weren't because they're all coming from like a dealership yard or a prepping yard. They're all. It's like, oh, here's all the white ones we're going to sell.
Sure, that was that was kind of a dumb thing.
I love the strategy behind it too,
because it's just like, that was too nitpicky.
That's just
for
me.
me.
Yeah.
To me, that's just so much more realistic. Owning a Tesla, that
fair.
could happen.
Yeah, the better part was like it was blocking a specific region, which was the only exit back through the city.
Very intentional,
and I just loved it. Like that was such a good idea.
How do you mobilize enough like physical barricades and blockades to block every artery in the world? Oh, wait a minute, we've got millions of Teslas sitting around. If we hack them, there you go. So anyway, all right. Peter Trevor's ABC News. I don't know if he jumped ship or what, but let's read what he has to say. Oh no, not another doomsday thriller. Yes, but see how director Sam Esmail, powered by an exceptional all-star cast, makes you care about being human while frying your nerves to a frazzle. Does this movie make you care about being human?
It makes you think about it.
It makes me care about it. That's the kernel of the movie, is humanity. Nick, no?
From a lot of different perspectives.
I hated the characters in this movie so much. They didn't speak to me in any way about the state of humanity. I thought they were all terrible and unrealistic and annoying. Except for the little girl, she was okay.
Can you hate a character but still see something reflected about humanity in their arc and their flaws?
Not if I feel like they're written poorly, I guess.
Yeah, I was off-put by the daughter most of all.
The
GH's
daughter,
Ruth. Ruth.
She was a little
Ruth.
awkward.
But I think that was intentional. All right, two more. Karen James, BBC.com. Leave the World Behind is not especially original. There are too many other apocalyptic movies around for that. But the film is especially timely. Is it timely?
I mean, well, I guess in the sense that, as I brought up a minute ago, like all the things that it brings up are like very topical, relevant, like terrorist threat things that we are, have been told to fear for the last few years. So I guess in that sense.
But this movie's about civil war.
Yeah, it's about the people, like slowly but surely from a lot of different perspectives. One's rich, one's this, one's a teen, one's an adult.
Yeah, the class commentary.
Yeah, the class commentary I thought was nice. I mean, that's where I felt the most intrigued by the idea of all these people in all these different avenues of life, and it's just interesting.
I think it's timely because we just freaking had a riot on the Capitol. I mean, we are the most polarized we've ever been as a country since I've been alive, and that's in my 29 years of life. And, don't laugh at that. And no, it's been a lot longer than that. But I feel like it's timely in that sense. It's really calling out the polarization. That's me.
I don't know. The whole class thing, I'll watch a better movie if I need that kind of commentary. Watch Parasite, or something.
I don't feel like this was a class movie.
I do. I think there was some commentary about class for sure.
Oh, I'd be really curious to hear that. So yeah, let's.
I agree with him. There's a good commentary in class. I feel like.
Yeah, I did not pick up on that very much. Constance Grady from Vox. Esmail's characters are blinded by a different kind of bourgeois comfort food, one that only comes into focus in the film's final, biting, and deeply satisfying sequence. Was the ending satisfying to you?
I laughed.
I loved the ending.
Yeah, I don't know if I was
satisfying.
Yeah, I mean,
Nick.
So you guys are telling me you love a movie that ends with watching fucking Friends? the worst show of all time.
They had nothing to do with Friends. You could have
Had nothing
inserted.
to do- had
you could
nothing
have-
to do with
You could have
Friends.
inserted.
That's how the
anything.
movie ends.
I understand that, but I think it could have ended with literally anything that she's watching. But the idea that all she fixated on as a young preteen was this idea that she just wanted what she wanted. She wanted to live her life in whatever way. Like the whole movie, she's just bitching and complaining about, why are we all worrying about this? Nobody's telling her what's going on because she's young. So her perspective is, I'm not being told the full story. I don't know what's going on. She's following along this entire this whole thing, and all she cares about is just enjoyment and just loving her life in the moment.
I understand all that. My point is that I hate Friends, and there's a lot of friends in this movie.
If it was
and I don't know
Seinfeld-
why.
if it was
and it's
Seinfeld-
literally the end of the last thing you see is Friends.
There's
I
not a
was like,
lot. There's not a lot of Friends.
It's referenced at least 10 times.
She there's one character who cares about it, and she just wants to talk about it, and it's all she can see. And I think she represents, regardless of whether or not we're in a disaster, like globally or not, everyone's life is kind of a disaster along the way at certain points. We've all been through disaster mode. We may be in it now. I don't know, but like life is suffering, and I think she represents accepting that, and yet finding happiness. Despite the fact that you're in this crazy disaster, she finds happiness. That's what she loves. She goes and finds it. Now, you can hate or love Friends, but I think that's superficial.
I understand that you think that's petty. It's not petty for me.
Okay. Yeah. No. I mean, I'm
It
just
offended me.
Okay. That's fair.
Now, if you wanted to watch Seinfeld,
Yes,
whole different movie.
If I
this
recut
movie's
this,
at 26.
if
she's
I would have
going after
recut this
Seinfeld.
movie and I put in Seinfeld, would you think it was 1,000? What was your rating from
I
8?
just said I'm giving it a 26 if she's going after Seinfeld.
No, see, I would think I would take points away because she is somebody who would love Friends. Friends is still around and popular for some reason, but it's only around and popular with certain groups of people, which I won't say. Seinfeld is indelible. It's the greatest show of all time. Friends was really good. Now I hate it, but people still love Friends. There's a reason why it commands such a price on streaming services, because it has a dedicated following, and it's people like her that would love Friends and whose heart would be so invested in what happens in Friends. I mean, that to me is more realistic than a Seinfeld. So disagree.
It was a joke. I was joking.
Well, here's something funny. Spoiler alert for the audience. The audience literally just hated the ending of this movie. They hated some other things, but they all unanimously hated the end of this movie.
Which I hate the most.
Because they all said, I wanted to find out what happened. Here's what's ironic about that. The ending of the movie was about a girl who finally fucking finds out what happens to the people that she loves. And they can't see that they're committing the same. That they're not understanding the catharsis of that. They're not looking deeper to see, oh shit, it's about a girl who finds out what's happening. But they're all on the surface. I want to see what happened. Which country was it? What was happening? That's not the point. The point is this girl that finds that out. I don't know. So it's kind of hypocritical.
It's
I think
laughing-
for
it's laughing
audience
at
to say
itself.
that.
Well, let me just say quickly that I hated the end from the very start because I knew there would be no resolution about what was actually happening. From the very start, I knew there wouldn't be, and I knew nothing about this movie going into it.
I think there was tons of resolution.
Yeah, I think so,
there's
too.
all the resolution you could possibly need. Well, let's talk about that. Let's
Yeah.
put a pin in
Yep.
that. Let's put a pin in the end, because that's one of the things I've got a topic. I think that you literally could not resolve it any further than they did.
Well, then what happened? Tell me. Who invaded? What country invaded? Who called the shots?
Why, that's not the point.
That's my point.
The point is there's a disaster and we're fighting each other because of the misinformation. They sit there and explain it. There's like a 10-minute scene where they're sitting outside of Kevin Bacon's house, and Mahershala Ali is talking to Ethan Hawke. GH is talking to Kale, Cuba. What's his name? What's
Connor,
Cole,
Kobe,
Colby.
Colonel.
Clay.
Clay.
His name's Clay.
Got it.
GH and Clay talking. And he literally sits there and goes, this is what's happening. There's a 3-stage attack happening. There, whatever countries it is, it could be the Middle East. It's like, we're supposed to believe it's countries that have teamed up against us. That's what we know. And they've spread misinformation, and they've cut down our communication and stopped our transport so that we can't know what's going on. Now we turn on each other and we have a civil war.
Sorry,
and
you keep saying they. Who's the they?
So the Iranians and the Chinese.
That was definitely not resolved. There was some speculation about it.
Yeah.
I think it was pretty solid speculation. I mean, how sure do you need to
It's
be?
also more specific than just
Did
like
you
it
need
was
to
this
make-
country. Like,
Did you have to have it? It had to be
was
Russians, or it had to be Chinese.
Was it the
or-
sovereign government of this?
Well, let me
Or
ask
the-
you this: did you care on Top Gun Maverick that they never said who the country that they were going to fight was? They just said it was some country with next gen fighter jets. Like, did you dock that movie for not knowing what country
That's
that
a
was?
completely different kind of movie with a completely different vibe and a
Question
completely
remains.
different point.
Question remains: did you dock that movie
So
for them
then
never
no.
explaining that?
No.
Okay, so but you're docking this movie for not telling us which 2 or 3 or 5 countries teamed up against us.
No, you're kind of misinterpreting what I said. I hated the ending because I knew. Well, I guess we don't agree on the resolution, but it ended exactly how I thought it was going to end. Let's say that.
Quickly-
Ended
quickly and
exactly how I
abruptly.
thought it was
And
going.
that-
And that disappointed me deeply.
That's fair. That's fair, and it's fair that it disappointed you, and I can totally see that. I don't think it didn't resolve, though. I think they explained what happened to us, explained what was going on. You go down to the bunker, you see the emergency alert, you see there's rogue people that are taking over popular areas as radiation, which leads you to believe that we are in the midst of a civil war. That is what's happening now.
Well, there's literally that's what you're referring to is literally 2 sentences.
Yeah, and that's all you need for resolution. I was just talking about Come True the other day, and there's literally 2 sentences
there's a lot
that
of other
resolves the
things.
entire movie.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other things. Like, if you were curious about, all right, does GH and Ethan Hawke's character make it to the house with the brother? Do they? Because it was the Thorns or something like that had the bunker, or whoever the name
Yeah.
of the people.
Oh,
were.
everybody makes it there.
So everyone makes it back to that house.
There's no
'cause
question that they all make it to the bunker
They
and
all
live
make
through
it
this.
back because obviously GH knows who that is. He mentioned it earlier in the movie. You know they're going to go to that house eventually because that's where he wants to go.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "If you're on board, go for it." And then the mother and the who was the mother with
She was with
GH's
Rose.
daughter. So they're
Amanda
also, and
and
you could
Rose.
hear them yelling in the background as the girl's walking through the house. So you
Oh,
know
they-
she's going to make it to
yeah.
the house. So you know there's resolution there. So I can see how audiences would be irritated by not like seeing an actual finish, but like you get those pieces, and if you think hard enough, you'll see it.
It's beautiful. These
Yeah.
two families that could not be more different have spent this movie coming to see each other through their own eyes and resolve their conflict. Now get to live in this beautiful bunker and survive this civil war for the next whatever it is. I mean, that's the resolution of this movie. It's a great resolution. How there, aside from the last 10 minutes. If you, at that point in time, before the last 10 minutes happens, there's no other way to resolve this movie with a good ending. There's no other thing you can do.
I looked at that your interpretation there very differently. You see this as kind of like these people they had to come together and they, really had to. I saw it more as humans are going to be selfish fucks until they can't be anymore. Until they can't be, unless they're going to die, unless they team up together. I didn't see that kind of inspiring thing you saw, I guess.
See, I look at it the other way around. I see humans are dicks until the rubber hits the road, and they will lay down their lives for each other. That's the message I take away from this.
I think there was one character who embodied that.
There were 2.
I guess you're right.
And
Yeah,
we'll
I
get
guess
into
you're
that.
right,
Actually, Brian's Corner speaks directly to that. But I just, since we've been kind of mentioning audience reviews, I'll read a few here. I can tell you that the through line, like I said, this is the most polarizing I've ever seen audience reviews. It's half star, 5 star, half star, 5 star, half star, 5 star, random 3 star maybe, half star, 5 star. I mean, it is love or hate. I've never seen a movie that is polarized as this one was for the audience. Mostly half stars, some 5 stars. Joseph N. Terrible production. Seems like an underachieving teenager produced this. The random zooms and just strange camera shots in general. Couldn't even get through the first 15 minutes of this without cringing. Seems to be Obama's should stick to producing false narratives like they're used to instead of venturing off into movies.
Dun dun dun.
Can I just say that was a really bad review?
Yeah, it was bad.
I don't agree with that review. I hated this movie. That person hated this movie. I don't agree with anything they said.
And Nick, we're highly disagreeing here, but I'm not disagreeing with your critical analysis and your opinion.
Sure.
I think it's completely valid. We're just disagreeing
Yeah,
on
vice
points.
versa.
I don't think that you are saying this is bad for dumb reasons. These people that I'm reading typically always say
those
things
are
are
bad
bad
reasons.
for dumb reasons.
Those are bad reasons.
Now, you may agree with some of these, but I'm just going to read through. Anonymous, another movie without an ending. I think that they maybe just didn't realize that if they don't like an ending, it doesn't mean it doesn't have an ending. Michael L. This film is incoherent, slow, and simply boring. If this story had been given to Christopher Nolan, he would have turned it into an amazing piece of cinema. So they're talking about like production value and like aesthetic of the movie rather than the story, which I thought
totally
was
agree with the
interesting.
first sentence, and I think the second sentence is completely ridiculous.
Okay.
We can all agree if Nolan made any of these movies we watch and we shit on, he could make it better.
I would totally watch a Nolan version of this. No offense, Sam Esmail, but Let's see. Ebony H, this is the one good one. I liked what she said. This movie was really great. It keeps you at the edge of your seat. I think anyone who rated it low was afraid of the possibility that this movie may be a warning. Ooh.
I don't like that one.
Ben, what was your rating for this movie?
82.
Okay.
Oh!
All right, up there. As
Damn!
as a cinematographer, as a DP, as a professional in this industry,
Yeah.
I thought this movie was shot perfectly for this film. I don't think it was shot well. I think it was shot perfectly for this film. Like all the shots were angular, they were awkward, they were unnerving, they were like they made me feel like uneasy and everything.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what kept it with this movie. Like the shots were just like rolling through the house and you're following a character, or like
Man, there was this one overhead that comes down
through the
and
house.
over and
Yeah,
then
and they're
through
watching the
house,
mom.
and then,
Yeah.
I used to watch a YouTube channel that no longer makes videos, but it was called Every Frame a Painting, and I feel like that's how you could describe this movie.
Okay.
Ben, might I just applaud you? You really have a good poker face because, but when he asked you that, I was like, you could say 2.
Yeah.
Like you do not wear your heart on your sleeve. Good job. I was shocked
You
by
guys
that.
all make me sick.
Irish maybe you like Irish Betty S. Nick. Other than some big name celebrities being cast, this movie was all over the place. No questions were ever answered about what happened, and the end was strange and left me wondering why I bothered to watch this movie. Sorry, I wasted my time.
Yeah, smart woman.
That seems like maybe you and Irish Betty S could go on a date. David P.
Call me.
David P. Worst movie I've seen in decades.
Wow.
And he's only 12.
Man after my own heart.
12.
C.W. Barney B. I felt that there were unanswered questions at the end. Just got the book to provide clarity, hopefully. So you see a through line of people with the end. They're
Wait, did you
hitting
say that
the
last
end.
person was 12?
No, I just made that up. I don't know why. That was a stupid joke. Graham. It moves by so slow, I think I nearly fell asleep before something happened, and the thing that happened was a cargo boat that crashed. This movie is shite.
Nice. Yeah. It's very- yeah.
Did he only make it through the first 25 minutes? Because the cargo boat was towards the beginning.
Yeah.
TH, it feels like a Shyamalan thriller with its strange sense of eeriness. But no, it doesn't go anywhere. The deer are just deer. Who did this? Parentheses, shrugs. What'll happen next? Quote, F off. We're done. Here's the tune to Friends. This movie wasted my time with zero to no payoff. I like that zero to no. Like, he probably thought he sounded clever, but 0 to no, like, that's 2 zeros. There can't be a 0 to no. Fucking idiot. Let's see. Chloe G. Movie was very good up to the point where we figure nothing out and ends with a girl watching Friends. I think Nick and Irish Betty S and Chloe G could all go on a three-way. This movie was terrible. Date. This movie was terrible.
Family show.
I don't
This is
know
a
how
family
it's-
show.
I
My
meant to
grandma
say-
listens to this show.
I meant to say third wheel. Third wheel date. This movie was terrible. I don't know how it's even possible this movie has a 75% rating. I have a hard time believing the critics actually watched it. And then along with that, Fintrea, hideous, boring joke of a movie. Seriously, how much are these critics being paid to give it high reviews? So we have obviously lambasting of critics, which is typical. 2 more. KW, they forgot to add an ending to the movie. What a waste of a night.
Man.
EB, literally the worst movie ever.
Did you guys not see the post-credit scene? No, I'm kidding.
I'm going to say, wait, what?
Yeah. There's no post-credit scene.
Yeah, so I don't know. The through line there, audience wants more questions answered. My response, this is creative work. Creative works can leave themselves open to interpretation. I don't think they have to be, dished out. I mean, okay, I know that's what Marvel movies do, but like sometimes there can be a movie that can leave you with conversations afterwards.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like The Matrix.
Interstellar. I remember having long conversations with people right after that movie ended.
You guys just completely missed my Matrix. Yeah, Interstellar for sure.
I tried to get away from it as fast as possible.
So, and the last thing I'll say, I Googled just to see what kind of stuff was up on YouTube for this after I finished all my notes and everything. If this tells you anything, when you search for Leave the World Behind review on YouTube, you'll see a handful of reviews with, 20 to 40,000 views, maybe at the most. You'll see ending explained videos with millions of views, and there's a bunch of those.
Yeah,
So that tells
multiples.
me people are not caring about so much how well this movie was made as much as what the fuck happened. What I want to know what happened. Explain it to me. And it's like I'm sick of this over reliance on having things spoon fed to us rather than just being a creative work that we can go, okay, what were the themes and character arcs and topics that we can take away and converse with about that. So there you go. There's our roundup. Tell me your thoughts, guys.
I like being spoon-fed at movies. So
I do
That's
too.
fair.
I do too.
just, not always.
Not always. Exactly, not
I think
always.
last night I wanted to be spoon-fed, and I was
You would
slapped
think-
in the mouth.
You
Fair
would think
enough.
that we have been advanced enough in the last 10, 15 years of film that we would become less, needy of this spoon-fed kind of realm. But,
I think the absolute opposite. People are getting dumber by the second.
oh, okay. Yeah. Well, in certain ways.
Yeah. Anyways, this is Critical Mess. This is a fucking mess tonight. A huge mess. We're sponsored by Old Elk, the ambrosial.
You can't use ambrosial as both parts of speech. Yeah, you can. Fuck it. Old Elk, you're
that's how
ambrosially
good.
ambrosial.
That's how good Old Elk is.
Literally, we have to use the best word there is twice to describe you, Old Elk.
It's the straight wheat whiskey we're on tonight, and it's that good shit. Thank you, Old Elk, for being you. All right, this is Critical Mess. We're talking about what's this movie called? Oh yeah, that's another thing I hate about this movie. The stupid fucking title. I can't remember what it's called to save my life. Leave the World Behind.
Do we want to flip the script now, or sorry, I didn't because that was in my flip the script. But anyway, we don't have to.
Let's
next.
go for it. I'll be brief.
Okay, sure. I think we all will. But I'll say one of the things I did not like about the movie was the name. I halfway get it, and here's where I'll give it credit. I haven't read the book, and I suspect the name is pretty fitting for the book, and I suspect that maybe there was some lost between the book and the screenplay adaptation, but it just doesn't summarize the movie for me. I think there are other phrases that could have done it and would have been more memorable. And we talked about this previously with the movie Light of My Life, which is a phenomenal movie, but man, it's hamstrung by the title. And the title actually makes sense when you've seen the movie, but it's hard to remember. And I agree. I think the title of this movie was bad. Couple other things I did not like about the movie. There weren't any performances that blew me away. Not that there has to be for a movie to be perfect. I would hope that there would be some though. So, let's put it this way. If there were some performances that were absolutely phenomenal, it would have boosted my 92. So maybe that plays into that. One of the biggest ones for me was I did not buy the deer and the flamingos and the nature stuff. That wasn't explained well. I know that they explained it, but I don't buy that.
There are movies that are 20 years old that have better CGI than this film.
I didn't mind the CGI on the animals. I agree with you, but I'm not docking points for CGI. I'm docking points for it didn't make sense.
Yeah, I think the CGI was pretty rough in this. Like you could tell that they popped it in well after the movie was shot, and they were like, we'll get the ship in there later. We'll get the deer in there later.
Hang on. I want to know what didn't make sense about that. That was like the one thing in this whole movie that actually made sense to me.
Why are there flamingos up in New York in a pool?
Because like some nuke went off in Miami or something and they had to migrate. Like the animals were just all moving in packs and migrating away from the disaster areas.
But wasn't New York a disaster area?
Well, was it? I thought everything got explained in the end.
Maybe it did. I don't know. Okay.
No, I'm being sarcastic.
Okay, here's another one I'll say. Okay, put aside the flamingos, the deer. It didn't make sense to me that the deer would be aggressive. Deer are prey, okay? They're going to run away from humans. They're not going to all swarm a human. I don't think that's how deer behave. And I don't think there's anything in this movie that explains why deer would behave. I can see why they would be transplanted to different areas, but I don't see why they would behave as deer don't behave.
Isn't there always like one monster deer leader that looks like way bigger and tougher than the rest of the deer? Isn't that like a normal thing too?
Yeah,
okay, well, hey.
I think it was unnatural to see that many deer. The first couple scenes with the deer were fine.
93.
I'm joking.
I think it was. I think the awkward thing with CG is when you see something unnatural, and when you see 40 deer lined up and they're layered together, it just looks awkward and it looks forced or weird.
I didn't mind it. I've seen so much worse CGI out there. At least there was no uncanny valley with the faces.
Talk about this, or was it I don't know if I made it up or what, but like the whole idea that if people can be affected by the radiation of whatever the sound wave thing was. Could the animals be affected by this? Because they seem to be scared by some people, but not others.
Good point.
They were ready to attack the GH's daughter, but they were not willing to attack the little blonde girl.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe because animals are very susceptible to noise. So
I just assumed they were all like moving.
Okay, let's put it this way, and maybe Nick will joke about this too. I don't know, but let's say you can explain those two things away. Here's what you can't explain. You can't explain how 50 deer swarm rows. And then Amanda comes and starts screaming at all the deer, and they all stare at her for like 30 seconds.
It wasn't Rose that got swarmed by the deer.
Ruth. Sorry, Ruth. Their names are too similar. Ruth is swarmed by the deer, and then Amanda comes and start screaming at the deer to scare them away. To me, either the deer immediately run away or they don't run away. Why, after 30 seconds, do they all of a sudden decide to completely just like run away in unison? I don't know. It seemed a little bit, the pacing was a little off on that scene.
Can I quickly say what I think the point of that scene was?
Yeah.
So I thought they threw that scene in there because, like, when Julia Roberts is like screaming her head off and flailing her arms around and yelling like a maniac, like that's like exactly how I was feeling inside watching this movie. And I was like, they're trying to show me how I feel. I was like, this is how I feel.
No, I think it was just.
I was like,
think it was.
exactly
I think
right.
it was just her character arc because they had that discussion inside the barn. She
Oh,
saw danger, and
don't
that
get me
was
wrong.
that
The
was it.
scene, the scene was powerful
Yeah.
and absolutely needed to be in there and was not thrown in. That scene was probably the first thing the writer thought of and built the entire movie around that. Okay, I'm just saying it was weird how the deer were fine with it and then weren't. I don't know.
You thought that scene was powerful?
Absolutely.
Oh man.
After everything those two chicks have been through, which those two, Ruth and Amanda are this movie. The two of them are this movie, and everything else is tangential from that, or runs out from that as the fulcrum. And the fact that they come together at that moment that's your movie right there. So.
Oof. For me, they were both so awful.
Yeah, of course they were. I'm not saying they weren't. They were very awful.
I was
Which makes it
so
more
hoping
poignant.
they were just going to get gored by those deers.
When
and then we'd
awful
just be
people-
done. Like, could this movie take a risk and kill somebody?
When-
Would it kill
when-
them to kill one person in this movie? In a movie where the whole world's dying? Can one
was it
person
just
die?
me that I thought Mahershala Ali and his daughter, GH and his daughter, were going to become like these serial killers? That this wasn't really their house. Was anybody else expecting this to be like
I
a
was
dark
thinking
horror
that.
movie?
I was thinking that the whole movie, which is
Yeah.
another thing I loved about the movie.
When 100% was not thinking that, guys, because they were serving it to us so heavy-handed. It was. So, I was like, "There's no way these people are bad."
if
This
you
is their
rewatch
house.
it and you look at
There's
GH's performance,
I thought they were.
Mahershala's
because they were
performance-
it was so ham-fisted, in my opinion.
What do you mean? Explain that.
The way that they tried to make them look like bad guys, to make them look sketchy.
And I thought they did that in purpose because I thought that they did it that way to where the audience would go, well, clearly they're not bad guys because they're presenting them that way, and then they turned it up being bad. I thought it was like a double reverse. I think I've seen a lot of movies that do that. They present somebody who's so obviously bad to where you're like they can't be bad, and then they do end up being bad, and you're tricked. It could have totally been that.
I saw a movie trying to subvert my expectations and failing miserably. That's what I saw. So
Fair.
Critical Mess, man. Ooh, getting into it tonight.
I flipped the script. Did you guys?
I didn't. I said I'd be fast, so I'll go quickly. Yeah, obviously there were some beautiful shots and cinematography, especially at the start of the movie. I knew nothing going into this movie.
Neither did I.
Yeah, same.
Nothing. So
I didn't watch a trailer. I didn't know a single thing. It was on
Me
Netflix,
neither.
and I pushed play.
Yep.
So the first few minutes, I was like, "Ooh, this is a attractive film." I was kind of just the artful quality of it. It was setting up nicely, and I think that did kind of carry throughout. But I just hated everything else so much that it didn't help. I thought the beginning of the movie was the best part. It's the only part I even enjoyed a little bit. Probably like the first 10 minutes. You know, when Julia Roberts was like, "I fucking hate people." I was like, "Oh, that was interesting."
As she turned to the camera,
Was
and
that the
looked at
only time
lens.
anyone cursed the whole movie? By the way, was there any other? Didn't seem like much cursing in this
You're
movie.
joking again, right?
Was there a lot of cursing?
There
in
was
this movie?
so many f-bombs in
Yeah.
this movie, especially by the kids. That, a lot of the
Oh,
audience,
you're right. The
were a
kids.
lot.
a lot of the
though.
audience
I
were
remember
like,
when the
a lot of the
kids
audience gave it a 1 star because of how much cussing there was in the movie. So yeah, there was a lot.
Well, you can see I was.
But I loved
obviously
that.
tuning it
I
out.
loved that zoom. They employ almost every camera technique in this movie, and that was one. It was a slow zoom into her face, and it comes all the way from a wide to a close.
Yeah, that was a cool shot.
Great
Yeah,
shot.
It was great.
That
And then
was
they
was a cool shot.
they rip into the Revenge by Joey Badass, and it was just that hard beating, rap song.
Yeah, well, which leads to
That
another thing. I had kind of a love-hate relationship with the music in this movie. I thought it was kind of interesting and cool in some spots, and other spots I thought it was terrible, and I hated how they kept using that
Needle drop.
Well, no, I was gonna say that kind of I don't even know how to describe it. That little like piano flourish sound when everyone like said something, or when anyone like would say something like striking or disturbing, it'd make that little doo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
Yeah, it
you
was-
know?
I loved it. It was
just-
very right. It was very perfect for the movie. Music was one of the things I mean, I've got my main points that I love about the movie, but the first one on the list is the music. Very creepy. Dissonant piano arpeggios juxtaposed against a beautiful sunrise over the ocean or a beautiful sunny day at the beach or deer grazing in the grass. That's like cognitive dissonance, and it's just like, what am I seeing? Like, it was playing with your emotions for sure. I liked the music, and the needle drops were cool
it
too.
was fun.
There'd be like a
can't-
song playing, and then the song would just like end, like as soon as a scene would transition, and it would almost be kind of a satire a little bit.
Yeah.
Continue flipping, Nick.
I'm almost done. I thought the scene where they were dancing was cool until they started hugging, and then I was like, okay, this is stupid again. But I liked when they were dancing for a second. That was kind of a fun scene. And I thought Rose, the little girl, was good. She was my favorite character. Despite the fact that she liked Friends, I kind of liked her character. So, yeah, that's it.
Okay. Grizz, did you get yours in? I think you said a few things,
couple
right?
things. Yeah, I think overall, you touched on it a little bit, but the acting, there wasn't one specific person that acted like outrageously well. It was just overall, they were all doing exactly what they needed to do for the characters and for the piece. But it was a little bit hit or miss on a lot of. That was the hard part. Is a lot of them were high highs and low lows. Like the little daughter, I thought was the hardest one to watch. Mahershala Ali was a little bit confusing because his facial expressions were great, but they were also just kind of confusing because I couldn't tell if he was going to be a dark, twisted, I'm going to murder everybody in the house, or if he's going to be, a savior. CG was rough. I think the music was hit or miss as well. Like I think what Nick said. Outside of that first opening song, they went hard on that. I thought it was so powerful.
What do you guys think about opening credits to movies? Like James Bond?
Huge fan.
You don't see it very often.
Opening
I
and
thought the
closing
credits were cool in this.
Yeah.
But actually, yeah, that's another thing I should have said. The credits were cool.
Sorry, actually, that was on my rapid fire, but yeah. Okay, since you brought it up.
Overall, though, I think I agree with a lot of the stuff kind of both of you guys said.
Yep.
So
Cool. Okay, flip the script. I knew that was me quick.
All right, you're listening to Critical Mess. We're sponsored by Old Elk. I'm here with Brian. I'm here with Grizz. I'm here with Ben. We're talking about a movie that I can't remember the name of. And we are going to talk themes of this film. Brian, you're the theme master. Why don't you get us started?
So actually, Brian's Corner this week is devoted entirely to the themes of this movie. So we can either go to Brian's Corner, or we can briefly talk themes, or you guys can talk themes, and then when we kick it to me, we go to Brian's Corner. I don't know. What do you want to do? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to throw a wrench, but the themes are the most important part of this movie for me.
Brian, you're definitely the theme master, but the only thing I took out of this was just the human nature throughout the entire film from every character. It was just the simple fact that they're all doing what they think is best in the moment, or for the greater good, or for the greater group, or individually as a selfishness. It was just, or selfishly with the daughter. So that's the only thing that I thought of as a theme, I guess, if you will. But I'm sure you have a
Maybe
stronger one.
the biggest theme, yeah.
Well, I think why don't we just go ahead and go to that special place
All right.
that we all know and love. Da-na-na-na-na-na.
Oh, hey, by the way, welcome to Brian's Corner, everybody. Glad to have you here. It's a great place to be. Thanks for coming, guys. You can stay as long as you like, but leave at 10. All right. So I want to talk about, there are 7 characters in this movie. Okay. If you don't count the crazy Hispanic woman on the side of the road, or the guy at the beach who is telling everyone, we don't know what happened, please move along. Those are the only 2 other characters who have speaking lines in this movie. Okay, so let's put them aside because they're very minor, very side characters. Aside from those 2, there were 7 characters in this movie with speaking lines. And they each represent 7 themes that this movie has, and 7 unique ways of dealing with the end of the world.
Theme master.
It took me 3 times to watch this to realize that that's what this movie's doing. Okay, and I love it. It's beautiful. So, just as a reminder, our 7 characters are Amanda, Julia Roberts, Ruth. I don't know her name. I can't pronounce it or whatever, but she's the daughter of Mahershala Ali. G.H. Mahershala Ali. Clay, Ethan Hawke. Danny, Kevin Bacon. Archie, don't know his name, but he's the son. And Rose, she's the young daughter, 13-year-old daughter. All right, so we got Amanda, Ruth, G.H., Clay, Danny, Archie, Rose. 7 characters, okay? 7 themes. So we'll start with Amanda. Amanda, to me, she represents fear. She's afraid. That's how she's dealing with the end of the world. And I think her associated theme is, we treat people like shit, but hide it by virtue signaling. But people are all we really have. And she explains that in the cabin or the shed when she's talking to Ruth. That's a strong theme to me. So it's very, and I know Nick, you were saying this earlier. You were saying that people pretty much treat each other like shit until they have to treat each other well. And I remember I looked at that, the other side of the coin. I said, people treat each other like shit until it really matters and their true colors show. And I think that's a glass half empty, glass half full way of looking at the same
And
concept.
can I just say that just is related to how I interpreted this movie. I
Yeah.
don't necessarily feel like that is like a real thing. but that's how I
Right?
saw
No,
it.
yeah, I'm saying that to me is what this movie's trying to say, and she actually says it with words, but basically that's her theme. We try to virtue signal and use we recycle and all the things she said that we do to sort of virtue signal, but we really at the end of the day we're terrible to each other. And then she realizes that people are all we really have, right? So that's a very, very strong theme in this movie. Ruth, she represents anger. So she's very angry throughout this movie, unlike Amanda, who's very fearful and always afraid. Ruth's very angry. She's always dealing with blaming people and anger and distrust and all that kind of stuff. Her theme is learning to see through the eyes of others, because I think she's the least accepting of other people in this movie. She is so ready to immediately hate people in this movie. And then I think accepting people who are different from us is sort of where she comes to from the end. She actually starts to see that this Julia Roberts, who she would never, ever want to be around or see or talk to, and would hate everything about her. At the very end, they have that beautiful scene where they're holding hands, looking at sort of at the end of the world. GH, the third guy, to me, he represents introspection. So he's cool-headed. And that's how he's dealing with the end of the world. He's thinking about it. He's quiet. He's not revealing his cards. Everybody keeps asking, what are you thinking? What do you know? He's not necessarily saying it because he's mulling it over. He's keeping his cards close to his chest. And I think that's a way of dealing with the end of the world.
What about when he pulls his piece out on bacon? That wasn't super chill.
That was at the end of his character arc. I think he had been introspective the entire movie until he decides that, you know what? I've actually got to do something about this. And I think that you're right. That goes against the way he had been dealing with it. Just like Ruth. Ruth represents anger, but by the end, that's gone. Amanda represents fear, but by the end, that's gone. She jumps in front of Ruth to save her and scare the deer away. These people conquer the way that they're dealing with the end of the world. And again, GH takes action.
So you're saying each of these themes will have a
full circle,
a 180.
Yeah. Or at least a realization, right? And then, so I think his associated theme, which is another strong theme in this movie, do morals matter at the end of the world? Because Ruth is sitting here saying, we're not trusting these people. Let's look out for ourselves. And she's like, why'd you let them back in the house after they left? And what was his answer? It was the right thing to do.
Yep.
He's worried about morals, and his concept is, do morals matter when it's every man for himself? Kind of the opposite of Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon doesn't give a shit. He's like, I'm going to protect my own, which leads us to Danny. He represents objective rationality. So that's a way of dealing with the end of the world. Build your bunker, hunker down in your house, get the supplies you need. Every man for himself. We're going to survive this at all costs. And that is a very valid way that people deal with the end of the world. I know we haven't had the end of the world, but that's dealing with disaster. Yeah. His theme would be our over-reliance on technology, which I think that's maybe what a lot of people would say is the number one theme of this movie. As soon as technology goes away, we break down as a society. Big, strong theme of the movie. Self-preservation at all cost. Every man for himself. These are strong themes coming from him. Clay. Let's talk about Clay. I think he represents confusion. That's a big way of dealing with the end of the world. Just confusion, not knowing what to do, and just being scatterbrained. I think shock would happen to a large swath of people, and that's a very strong, probably popular reaction to what it would be like.
He seems so aloof the entire film, confused, discombobulated. He didn't know who to trust or talk to or listen to. Yeah,
couldn't he? They're like, did you make it to town? He's like, I don't know.
Yeah. He didn't know what to. Yeah.
His theme: overcoming feelings of uselessness and doing what you have to do. So he even says, I'm a useless man. And yet look what he does. He jumps in between two guns to do what he has to do to save his son.
And drives off from that lady too.
Yeah, and that's the inciting incident for him. He feels so conflicted about leaving that lady on the side of the road that he does something towards the end of the movie. Mm-hmm. Turns a 180 there. We got two more. Archie, the son. I think he represents oblivion. And oblivion would just be, being oblivious to what's going on. He's not. He just decides to shut it out, not process it, not talk about it, and just ignore it. And I think that would be a way that people would deal with the end of the world. His theme, cynicism. He even says it. Find something else to care about. Why do you care about friends? He's not trying to help her. He's like, just the world's gone to shit. There's nothing you can do to change anything, so don't even try. And I think that's a theme that this movie is presenting to us. And then finally, Rose. This might be my favorite of the 7 themes. She's the 13-year-old daughter. She represents acceptance. And I think that that's a very strong one. That would probably be the least likely way that people deal with the end of the world. She represents it, I think, partially because she's an innocent kid and she doesn't have a lot of baggage. She represents acceptance because she's not trying to figure out, what are we going to do? Where are we going to go? She is just trying to find happiness in the reality that she has. So she's accepted the end of the world. How am I going to figure out how to watch Friends and just enjoy
I'll be happy in
life?
my own little world. Yeah.
Yeah, and her associated theme is optimism. So whereas her brother's cynicism, hers is optimism. Even though the world's fucked up, you can still focus on what makes you happy. And I think that's probably the most applicable theme to us here now in our lives, which are filled with disasters, like I said earlier. So there you go. There's the 7 themes: fear, anger, introspection, confusion, objective reality, oblivion, and acceptance. There may be other ways of dealing with the end of the world, but I think this film beautifully sums up the 7 different ways in the 7 characters in the movie, and then also 7 different themes there. So, I don't know. It took me 3 watches, but I got there. I feel like I should release a video essay on YouTube.
With the words "ending explained."
That way I'll get millions
all
of views.
caps. Yeah.
With an arrow, 2 yellow arrows
There's
pointing
so many
something.
arrows.
It's just a photo of your face with arrows pointed at it.
Well, all I'll say is well done, Brian.
Thank
I think
you.
that was an insightful piece.
I have no idea what he said. I blacked out.
No, I thought, I
I was
honestly, I think that all made a lot of sense
Yeah.
to me. I think I was tracking with all of that, and I don't really disagree with any of it.
Can I also say that I think you can totally agree with what I just said and still hate the movie, and I wouldn't think.
Well,
anything.
I guess I would just say, I hated this movie so much that I can't even start to think about it that deeply.
Sure.
Like
No,
it once again would make me angry.
It's like
to
you
start
had
thinking about it
blinders.
like that.
Yeah,
Right.
sure.
Right. And I guess here would be my response to that. Even though I like I said, I agree with everything you said. Really, I disliked the characters so much. They were so just unfun and uncomfortable to watch, and so I think you were right about them all embodying a theme, and that they're all very distinctly different. I think that is kind of a good point too. But if I literally just don't like any of them at all, and I'm not invested in any of them at all, and I don't care about any of them at all, and I am talking about I can be invested in like a bad guy or a good guy, it doesn't matter. I just didn't like the attributes of these people's personalities. I found them all very uninteresting and just hard to listen to and watch.
Real quick, what the fuck is this scene right here? Did this pull you guys out of it? So what we're watching is GH and Ruth have a long conversation in their driveway at the very bottom of the frame.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of these shots felt awkward.
This looks like a mistake.
They felt uncomfortable. Go back and watch this movie again.
I think
if you
this is
want to.
intentional. I
Yeah,
think
oh,
it's
yeah,
very
absolutely.
intentional.
It's very intentional.
But it looks broken.
It's because it's unnatural.
Yeah.
Because if you look at basic thirds and how
They're in the
movies are broken
bottom.
up,
Yeah.
they're
Bottom
in the
third.
bottom third, like they're within a quadrant. Usually they're within the top quadrant or one of the corners or something like that. There's a balance to movies. You'll notice
Yeah.
it over and over again. The 50-50 split where you have conversations with people.
I want to go back to
I
you,
think it was
Nick.
because of that.
I that was the biggest weird thing, so I just wanted
No,
to
that's
catch
all
it
right.
before it went off screen. So
Well, and that
continue.
actually kind of made me think of something I want to bring up. So, because they were kind of alluding to this in that scene. I thought something that bothered me about this movie. I thought GH was going to be much more, in some way, more intimately or deeply connected to the events that were happening. I know he had his little Department of Defense buddy that he got some information from. But I thought the way he was kind of being ambiguous with his daughter and the way they were kind of talking about, he kind of brought up clients a couple times and we're going to wait to hear what this client says and things like that. I thought there was going to be a much more interesting tie there that just never came to fruition. And it actually kind of turns out he was kind of being weird around his daughter because of the whole wife being dead thing. And so that just didn't pay off at all for me. So that scene made me think of it because it was the him and his daughter kind of talking alone, and that just made me think of that. So anyway, but I think I was more or less done with sort of my rebuttal there. I don't even know I'd call it a rebuttal because I agree with you.
Well, yeah, no, I think that there's been a lot of times when I've watched a movie and I'm fucking done with this movie. Like, I don't even want to think about it. And so I probably lost things as a result. I think we all do that. So, if you're so off put by a movie, you're not going to watch.
I will be so transparent that I did not want to do the work.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, I get
in
it.
this movie. It wasn't worth it
We're
to
all
me
human.
to invest that time and energy into figuring out all the details and what was going on here because I just didn't like it to begin with.
I just thought it was so cool that it was such a small movie, but a big movie. I mean, it feels like a big movie because it's dealing with the end of the world, and you see, there's some really cool shots in it. But there are 7 people in the movie. I mean, it's weird how big and small the movie is together.
felt like a
I
big
think that's
independent,
what triggered me to go, oh, wait a minute, these characters, it's like a stage play.
Sure.
So.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for joining me in Brian's Corner, everybody. We'll be here till 10 o'clock.
Da-na-na-na-na-na. All right.
Love
An
it.
insightful corner this evening. This is Critical Mess. We're sponsored by Old Elk. It's Brian. It's Grizz. It's Ben. We're talking about a movie I can't remember the title of. And
Leave No Trace.
Let's talk about that. Until we did this episode, I was telling people about this movie and could not remember the fucking name of this movie
None of
over
us could.
and over and
It's
over.
really bad. I'll
And
stop bringing it up, but it's bad.
No,
It's
it's so bad. I don't know why.
What would be a better name for this?
Troy.
Anything.
Troy.
Saltburn.
Yeah, Troy.
Yeah.
Anything.
Something
Yeah.
that like poor things. Like something that's like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
We could go very Snakes on a Plane. It
Yeah.
could be End of the
Short-
World movie.
yeah.
Short and sweet,
That
but
would be
also
better.
memorable.
Watch
or-
out for the fucking white Teslas.
Yeah.
Like anything,
Yeah.
Fuck Tesla. Yeah, anything.
Anyway. All right, guys. It's time. It's time. You all know what it's time for. You've all been waiting for this moment. The apex of the episode is what people generally call it when I talk to them.
The Zenith.
The Zenith, yes. Yes. It's a segment known by many names. I think the first one we typically call is Crossfire.
Crossfire. You'll get caught up in it.
I think we've also called it Medium Fire.
I don't have a medium set fire sound effect.
That's okay. That's okay. We can work on that.
Medium burn.
Medium burn. Yep. Now, what was the original name of this segment? Was Rapid Fire.
Rapid fire.
Rapid Fire.
Just boom, boom, boom.
Right,
Rapid.
Right. And unfortunately, historically, the segment did not deliver on the promise of the title. So we have changed the name.
Officially?
Oh, we've changed
Today?
it.
We have changed the name.
Like-
Well, no.
For good?
No, guys. No, guys.
Oh, okay. You
Everybody.
scared me.
No. We changed the name a long time ago.
Did we?
We did.
Mhm.
And we changed it to
Slow burn.
Slow Burn. Welcome everyone to Slow Burn. Okay, let's just get right into this thing. I think the first thing, let's just
He slams his beverage down on the table.
let's talk about the producers, guys. Let's talk about it. We got
Who were the executive producers on this film?
There were a lot.
why don't
the
you tell
entire
us?
cast.
Quite a few. Yeah.
And a bunch of presidents.
Well, there was, yes. I'm only talking about 2
Okay.
that I
Let's hear it.
really care about. And Grizz, why don't you tell us who those executive producers are?
I believe it was Michelle and Barack Obama. So strange, awkward,
Interesting.
interesting.
I didn't know that till the second time I watched it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I
must
had a
have just
double,
missed
like
it.
a double take. Like I had to rewind.
I think
and
I was like the shapes and the intro stuff. I wasn't reading the names. I was just looking at the design.
Yeah.
And then the second time I watched it with April, I had already seen it, so I was looking at the names and I was like, oh,
Yeah, the
think
longer
that's
the
why.
movie was out, the more I saw teasers about them being involved. So
Well, let's talk about it a little bit, guys. Did it disturb anyone a little bit that a former president is talking about the USA getting
Hell yes.
fucking annihilated?
yeah, that makes it more dark.
Yeah, that kind of bothers me.
Like I said, maybe one of the most realistic disaster movies.
How does that add to the realism?
If anybody's going to know about countries hating us and
Yeah,
wanting
the-
to go to war to us, it's a fucking former president.
Yeah, the ominous mystery.
Well, he didn't write
like-
the book.
No, but it's the ominous mystery of
But I guess,
him
yeah, he can provide-
intersecting
but
things that
Insight,
could be.
I guess.
And as
But why?
we can all attest, screenplays do not equal books. Like I don't know
Yeah,
what was the similar in the book to this. So again, I think the name shows that there were some things changed, but I don't know, Nick. Yeah,
I just feel like the Obamas could have made a movie about literally anything. They could have made a movie about farm animals. But they decided to make a movie about the end of the world. And not only that, but the United States, well, maybe not the end of the world, but the end of the United States as we know it.
Don't you think
And
they made a movie about the one thing that they know about? They don't know about farm
The
animals.
apocalypse?
They know about geopolitics, right? No, I don't know. Guys, I'm a fucking anarchist. I don't care about presidents or countries.
I'm not denying. I mean, of course, obviously, yes. But it's like, why put that knowledge to use to make a fear-mongering movie that is just about the end of our country? I just think that's odd. I think that's odd that an American president makes a movie about our country getting annihilated.
I
think it's
I
weird.
hate to speculate when it comes to this kind of stuff, but do you think maybe it's like a reaction to like, I don't even want to say this word, this name, but you know what I'm going to say? I think it's a reaction to Trump. I don't know. Let's go somewhere else. Hey guys, let's go back to Brian's corner again.
But it's like, why?
Let's
I just wish
get some
this
slushies
was not
and
even
some.
the conversation. Like, keep your fucking politics out of my movie, man. Like, I don't know. But I will just say, that and like not even joking, like that actually kind of made me uncomfortable. That like the former president, 2-term president, is making a movie about our country getting destroyed.
Didn't bother me one bit.
Yeah, it bothered me.
I mean, it's definitely unnerving, but
It bothered me. I'm with you.
are you more
I
with
think
like maybe George W. becoming like a little artful painter in his old age? Or
that actually bothers me more
it
than
does
this.
bother me more. It's beautiful.
Well, I like it's weird because they ultimately executive producers have a say in what the final cut is.
Yep.
They're the ones that approve.
Oh,
what
and you think a
everything
former
happens.
president probably gets a little bit extra sway.
Yeah, because
Right.
there were a lot of
Exactly.
executive producers on
With
this,
that
but
smile.
I would say
Yeah.
they were probably the chief executive producers.
Yeah.
And the fact that he approved all this and then was like, "Yeah, that seems accurate." You're like, "Oh, what?" that's very good.
Guys, I-
just like, oh yeah, it was probably the Iranians.
I'm sorry. I don't know, guys. Again, I hate to wax poetic on politics, but I just think that we are so freaking political and polarized as a nation, and people hate the other side, regardless of what they are. That I think we're the closest we have been in my 29 years of life to civil war, and I think that's why they latched onto this movie. And I just think that's as far as I go on it. That's as far as I go. I say this is a warning. Hey, you know what? Let's actually look at each other as people, which is what the main characters in this movie's arcs all do. Is they look at the other person as a person, and then they learn to accept them. And that's to me what this is saying to us. Let's look at each other as people, and not just hunker down in our houses or make America great again, yada yada, whatever the rhetoric is. I think that this is backlashing against that, and that's all.
Even though it's horrifying to think, oh, it could be this singular entity, or it could literally be everyone against us. And what's funny, it's going to eat us is we're going to eat ourselves.
Yeah, maybe we should start actually banding together.
Yeah, be self-aware and like start looking at yourself.
I hate myself and who I've been for the last minute and a half. Can we move on to the next thing?
All right. Okay, next slow burn topic. I'll just say it. Kevin Bacon. Go.
He was so good in this. So good.
He needs to do more work. I love it.
Yeah, I agree. I like
He
Kevin
was so
Bacon.
believable.
Yeah.
So believable the way
He was also
talking
great
about.
in Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special. If you've not
I
watched that yet,
I didn't see that.
Oh, you guys need to watch that.
Did it bother anyone else that the kids looked nothing, and I'm talking about Ethan Hawke and Julia Roberts' kids, nothing like the parents at all.
Never thought about
they
that
looked
for
like
1
they were
second.
from a different planet.
Never thought about that for 1 second.
Kids are awkward, dude.
I mean, just try. Just
Kids are awkward as
try
hell.
to find a kid that looks a little bit like Julia Roberts. Like a little bit. Like, you got a lot of money. Like, you can find someone, but I don't know.
Speaking of Julia Roberts, real quick, ironically, as hateable as she is in this movie, I notoriously, I don't want to say hate, I dislike her very strongly as an actress. And I don't think I've ever seen anything I've ever liked her in until this movie.
Wow.
I actually liked her
Strong.
in this movie.
That's amazing.
Okay.
Speaking
Okay,
of
we already
old-
touched on this, so I'll just bring it up quickly. But it was just so annoying. I have to say it again. Ruth, especially in the first 5 to 10 minutes, we got the introduction to Ruth, and she was like the way she was very unnaturally like chiming in about, oh well, he does blah 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 blah, about talking about her dad. That was like, to me, that was like bad writing, really bad writing, because it was like no one ever in any universe would ever talk like that, speak like that. Especially her little, and the way she did it so condescendingly. I get it was like she was going for that, like she was going for irritating, but it was not only irritating, it was just extremely unrealistic and just a weird way of communicating, and it bothered me. And again, it tapered after that.
Have you ever met like a 17-year-old or
Yeah.
18-year-old girl?
Yeah, it's the daughter of,
Like-
she's covered in tattoos and she's, I don't know. There was nothing
Like
really
it,
external,
it was
but I saw
unrealistic in the way that movies are
Just
unrealistic,
wait, Ben.
but it was like it was realistic the same way that the 13-year-old girl loved Friends. It was on brand. It was very off-putting.
To be fair, I do not hang out with 17-year-old girls.
I bet she likes Seinfeld.
Let's be very clear. You do not hang out with 17-year-old girls.
I think I was.
Please
I think I was
confirm.
clear.
Please confirm with that now.
I think I was. Okay. This movie is yet another example of why Airbnb is so fucked. Fuck Airbnb. It's such a bad it just lends itself to bad situations. I think Airbnb. Did you guys see Barbarian?
Yeah, Barbarian.
Yeah. Now, so that's obviously another example, but just in general,
Which is the more damning movie to Airbnb as a brand? Leave
Yeah.
the World Behind or Barbarian?
I think Leave the World Behind for sure because
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
piece of shit movie.
Wait,
well,
besides
you're,
the one
you're
where
blinded
there's
by
a
your
woman
hatred.
chained up in the tunnel in the basement.
Barbarian was a great movie.
It's a
We're
great
not.
movie.
I did
I'm
not
saying-
ask
So I'm
you
saying that
which
doing
movie
that-
was
no,
better.
No, but that's better for Airbnb's brand because they're part of a better movie. You understand?
Wait.
No.
If it was a better, more effective movie where you were the bad person, wouldn't that be
I'm
worse
saying
for
that's
you?
irrelevant. I'm just saying the movie itself is better, much better, and I'd want to attach my brand to a better film. This movie was so bad, maybe it also made the Airbnb experience terrible, for the record. But it was such a bad movie, in my opinion, that I wouldn't want my brand within 10,000 feet of this.
Oh no! Leave the World Behind is much better for Airbnb. That house is amazing.
Yeah.
Like everything about it. It's not Airbnb. It's Barbarian.
it has
There's
a
a
heated
fucking
pool.
there's a dungeon in this Airbnb.
No, I know you're probably right. It's a losing battle, but regardless,
You've
I
lost.
think the bottom line is fuck Airbnb. Everyone short Airbnb. We're all shorting.
You heard it here, folks.
Yes.
There's
stock
Nick's
advice.
stock tip.
Look,
Stock
guys,
tips.
let me just go on a 10-second old man
Please,
Nick
please.
tangent here.
At my Brian's Corner was like
About-
5 hours.
about
please.
Having just booked an Airbnb last fall, yes, it's awful. It's terrible.
Thanks, Ben.
This is
Nice.
Nick's,
Let me take it
Nick's
back.
that was a
complaining corner.
good new
So-
sound effect you
Yeah,
got.
I like that. So, a few houses down from me, 4 or 5 houses down from me, these fucking bastards buy this house a couple years ago, and they just Airbnb it out to college kids
That's
who
not
party
cool.
all weekend.
That's not cool.
They smash glass everywhere. They're partying all fucking night long. And look, I'm a reasonable human being. We live on a nice street with nice people. My next door neighbor, he's 90. Okay, he doesn't need this shit. He doesn't need 35 cars on the street partying on this cool little house that these people have. They're ruining our neighborhood. Like seriously.
The
Like,
neighborhood that you have to move out of because it's on a.
Well, that's still up in the air.
I think
it's not
that's-
going to happen now.
Yeah. Well,
I say
we'll see.
the bottom line is that you should live in a neighborhood with an HOA. Not that you not. I'm not saying that's your fault that you don't, but like Airbnb shouldn't be allowed to do that. I agree, but yeah, I don't know. There should be rules. I agree. I would be if I were you. I've got neighbors that have a dog that barks occasionally, and I literally have had fantasies of like bad things, and so
Intrusive
I am
thoughts.
totally
Intrusive thoughts take
tracking.
over.
Nick,
Yeah.
I am. My heart is going out to you right now.
The moral of the story is stay in a hotel, please. Just stay in a hotel.
Yeah.
It's cheaper. It's nicer. It's just okay. I'm done. I'm done.
Two rapid fires in 10 minutes. All right, this is a great
Nice.
pace.
We're
Let's
good.
keep going.
Okay, here. Well, Kevin Bacon was fast.
That's true.
All right. Okay.
So she said.
The emergency. Ooh, shade on bacon.
Damn.
Shading that bacon.
Cooked it.
All right.
I love you, Kevin Bacon.
Cooked it.
you were great in Hollow
No
Man.
sizzle sound effect. Nothing.
Just a note here. This is something that many movies have done, and this movie did it as well. So I didn't give it really any points for this, but that emergency broadcast signal, that noise is terrifying. That's one of the scariest noises you can hear, and that like weird distorted voice that comes on is like, "This is not a drill. This is," but dude, it's fucking
Man,
scary,
that
man.
that lended to the buildup of the suspense in this. That was so realistic because we've all heard that noise. Ooh, that was good.
Yeah.
And it happens right when I think Julia Roberts asks GH a question to where he had just said he like forgot his wallet. And she's like, wait a minute. And then that noise like breaks that suspense. So it like bails him out of that weird situation.
right,
And
right.
it's good writing,
Sure.
according to me,
Good,
not
good
Nick.
filmmaking. Yeah.
Good filmmaking, yeah.
Did you guys catch that Julia Roberts was an account service person?
Yeah.
We all
Yep.
work in advertising.
Yep.
Marketing.
On the
Yeah.
quote unquote client side.
Uh-huh.
Where do you guys think she worked?
BBDO. Yeah. I don't know.
Next.
Here's an insightful quote from GH. The satellites are networked to our computers down here.
Yeah. Well, he's saying that to explain to the person who asks him.
So does Julia Roberts not understand that satellites communicate with computers?
Exactly.
not.
Exactly. She says.
Oh, she doesn't.
Yeah. Well, he says something. I've got to say that sequence made sense to me because when they're speculating, which by the way, that's one of the things I loved about this movie is all the speculation on like power plants and satellites and things like that. I loved the speculation. It was really cool. But she was like, or he said something about our satellites, and probably in her mind she's thinking, well, did they missile attack our satellites? Because honestly, that's the first thing I thought of was like, did they take out our satellites? Because he even says they knocked our satellites out of commission, and she's like, aren't the satellites in space? And he's saying, well, yeah, but they're networked to computers down here. So that's a very realistic conversation. I think a man who's in his line of work would have with a woman who's in her line of work. Not that he's a man and she's a woman. Could have been the other way around. But someone who's in his line of work to someone who's in her line of work.
That just seemed like a dumb. Aren't the satellites in space? That's not good dialogue.
No, she could have asked it more eloquently.
How do you need her to ask that? I mean, he says they knocked our satellites out of commission, and her whole point is, well, why? What's this got to do with space? Like, go ask 10 people. I don't. Never mind. I'm giving much more lenience on that interaction than
that didn't
where you
bug
guys are.
me, but I get it.
Yeah, it didn't bug me, but it was just a simple line, I guess. I didn't think about.
I just thought it was a stupid line. We're slow burning it. Okay. The noise, guys. The loud, annoying noise was very loud and annoying.
Yeah.
Very loud and annoying.
I
and it
heard
wouldn't go off.
I heard it 6 times.
I shouldn't have to turn down the volume for my personal comfort for the film I'm watching. That's offensive.
Did you start to lose your teeth and throw up blood?
Almost.
Next day?
Yeah.
Almost.
If I wouldn't have turned it down, I probably would.
Well, I think maybe that served to help you realize how annoying and loud that sound was. Maybe, I don't know. If they're showing people being hurt by a sound, I don't know. I sure it was annoying, but I think it needed to be.
It happened multiple times, and it went on and on and on. Okay, like Jim Carrey and Dumb and Dumber making the most annoying sound in the world is one thing. Okay, but this was just. It was egregious, in my opinion. It literally hurt my ears.
I think the second time was really good. It started really loud, but then it actually tapered off, even though it was supposed to still. It was almost like our eardrums were being desensitized to it, and then it started intermittent, showing a full screen of red, and then going all the way to red, and then it said part 4, whatever, the flood.
Yeah.
I think that was a well done sequence, the second one. But I mean, yeah, sure, Nick, it was an annoying sound. Yeah. What do we think about parts in a movie? 5 parts. Part 1, part 2, part 3.
I enjoy it.
Yeah, you do.
I do.
I always forget that it's a parts movie till another part comes up, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're in a parts movie.
Yeah. I always wonder how many parts there are going to be, because some movies are like 36 parts, and you're like, okay, this is too much.
Kudos to this movie. Part 5 was the last one, which obviously we know why that's named that. Nick hates the fact that it's named that, but
yeah, the parts thing, I don't know. I can kind of take it or leave it. It seems like a little bit of a crutch to me, but it's fine. All right. I had a lot of comments on that sound. It was really hurting my ears. We already talked about Friends and my disdain for that show. It's a part of the plot point.
I got a question, guys. Do you remember GH's delicious signature cocktails?
Did we get any further explanation about what that was?
Do we think Old Elk was used in the making of this?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it wasn't, then
A man of high class.
it's not a
of
good
course.
signature cocktail.
Yeah, exactly. It had to be Old Elk.
That was actually one of the best parts of the movie. Remember when Ethan Hawke took that first? He was like,
He's like, yeah. He was like, oh, honey, you're going to love this.
I'm shocked they didn't turn a bottle around to the face and show it to the screen.
I actually looked to
Slow
see
zoom.
what brand it was, and they never showed us.
yeah, that was fun.
Nick, as a resident child actor critic, how were these child actors? I know you've already said that you
I
enjoyed
thought they
Rose.
were actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I thought they were actually pretty good and pretty realistic. I don't once again hang out with a lot of kids, but it seemed like they were. I would say actually of the dialogue in the movie, I thought their dialogue was the best. I thought it was the most interesting too.
Did you like when Archie was like so just like sincerely saying, "Well, I don't care that you farted. I just care that you lied about it." he was so they weren't like digging at each other like typical siblings do. Like they didn't like fake love each other, but I liked how he was kind of like when she came in at night and he's like, "What's wrong?" And
Yeah.
she's like, "I care about friends," and he's not like, "You're stupid, you stupid idiot," he's
Yeah.
like, well, just you should maybe care about something else, or I don't know, like, and he scares her in the shed and she hits her head. He's like a big brother, but he also, you can tell he loves her. I don't know, they
Sure.
wrote that
Yeah.
those
I agree
characters
with
well.
That. I agree with that, and I thought they did a good job of just overall making the kids realistic. Like,
Yeah.
just just their mannerisms, even like the little things. Like, did you notice how Rose had she had a sore on her mouth, and like in the beginning, which I thought I was like, that's a weird thing, because
I didn't
obviously
notice
the makeup
that.
person would get rid, but that was an intentional thing, obviously, to just make her. That's a little kid might have some sore or something, So I thought that that was an interesting little touch.
Guys, as an AV guy, as an audiophile, okay, I'm looking at this scene right now where they're in GH's room and they've got all the records. Did you guys look at his hi-fi equipment? I mean, that was some high-end
it good?
fucking equipment.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
It was really
How
good.
the hell does Amanda know how to walk up to it and operate it? If she doesn't know that a satellite is connected to a computer, she does not know how to turn on a Macintosh
Come on, that's old
preamp
school,
and
though.
put on a.
That's a record player. Come on.
But you'd have
Good
to
answer.
turn on
Come
a
on, dude.
preamp and
Good
then-
answer. Good
Come
answer.
on. Yeah. I have more respect for the chessboard in the background in that room. That's brilliant.
I want a wall of vinyls like that.
No
That was-
shit.
Oh yeah, that was
huge
cool.
wall,
I mean,
double-sided.
Beautiful.
This whole
Yeah.
It's accessible from both
Hey
sides.
Ben, tell us what you were telling us before the podcast about the
walls?
The wall, yeah.
Yeah,
the walls.
so a couple of things in the film. If you go in when they go into the bedroom the first shot, the waves are low,
Like on the wall behind the bed?
Behind the bed,
Mhm.
and as the movie progresses, the waves get higher and higher.
That's awesome.
and more aggressive, and so it's kind of like like they're slowly going underwater to instance the flood, and so. They're also doing that. There's also the wall in the living room gets more and more chaotic and noisy. That's another
wow.
one.
I'm gonna have to watch it a fourth time.
Yeah, there's also a ton of other ones. Like there's a hidden QR code in the United States map that leads that you can scan, and it goes.
Oh,
to
when
the
CNN
coordinate-
briefly pops on and it shows the cyber attack map, there's a QR code in there.
Yeah,
Ooh, that's
So-
spicy.
yeah. There's a ton of them, but yeah.
Cool.
All right, how about just hi Ethan Hawke?
Oh yeah, yeah. 10 out of 10. And he first hits that thing, and right as he's inhaling, she goes, "Have you ever fucked one of your students?" And his reaction, he's like, "Oh, so good."
Yeah, that was
Easily 10 out of 10 for sure.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Okay, I'm gonna read a quote that I actually thought was a good piece of dialogue from this movie, from GH. I once saw myself as a sophisticated man, someone who could see the world for what it was. I know that seems like kind of a throwaway line, like, okay. But to me, I thought that was just a really interesting line to kind of equate sophistication with being sort of rational,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I agree with that, but I think that's an interesting way of defining being sophisticated.
When did he say that?
He said it to Julia Roberts
When they were talking
At
at
the
the table
dining
there?
table.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a good scene.
Yeah. So, anyways, I just thought that was kind of an interesting line. A good
What
line.
about this line from GH? Now I wonder if that thing I always thought about myself is a delusion. And then Amanda says, "Don't be too hard on yourself. If you dig deep enough, it's all probably a delusion." What was do you guys remember that?
Yeah, but I don't. I can't answer your.
I had to
question,
rewind it a
I don't
couple
think.
times to figure out what they were talking about. I'm still a little unclear.
I didn't catch that one.
All right, we've talked about the bad CGI. I don't know if we need to talk about that anymore, but I think we all agree it was
Rough.
not great. I want to give one other little example of that wasn't the typical animal CGI, but just the kid pulling the teeth out of his mouth looked really fucking fake, like really fake. Like I don't even, like, couldn't you have like done a practical effect there or something?
I think
like,
that was practical and
no
CG together.
Oh, okay, maybe
Yeah,
together.
It was.
Yeah,
Maybe
You can
together.
tell by the way he talks
I think
Okay.
that there's actually a prosthetic in his
Yeah.
mouth, but the actual taking out of the teeth, there was.
I think they
it was a
enhanced
blend.
it a little bit, but I think they green screen. Usually they'll green screen out your teeth, your actual teeth, and throw in additional and have you pull out those teeth from there.
I'm gonna add
Assume.
on to what you said. I think that the CG that you notice in the movie is not egregious, but just not the greatest caliber. But there's a bunch of CG in this movie that you do not notice. There are probably 15 scenes where the camera literally moves from an exterior to an interior through glass,
The
and you don't
problem-
even notice it.
the problem-
and that's good CG.
The problem is organic life is not
Yeah.
CG'd well in this film.
At least
at
they
all.
didn't try. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with you. It's not the worst I've seen, but in
organic life is redundant.
in
You know what I'm
2023, it should
Organisms.
probably look better than
I don't know.
than it did.
CG's hard. I don't think they did natural through the doors and through the windows and stuff like that. I noticed that almost immediately because it feels unnatural. It doesn't feel creative to me anymore. It just feels awkward that how is that giant camera flying through the door? Like how it just doesn't. But
It's
the CG
seamless,
for
though.
the animal, yeah, it's seamlessly smooth. Like
you may
through.
know that it's CG because you understand how films are made,
Yeah.
but you don't know it because you saw something that took you out of it.
Yeah, the cutscenes were great. Him running to the beach and from the plane as it's crashing.
Yeah.
that stuff was great. We were talking about the cuts all the way to the house that were great.
Well, like, on the way out, they're driving, and the camera angle starts outside the car, then goes into the car, and then into the back seat,
That scene was
and then
fucking
back
brilliant.
out of the car. And I still have no idea.
No,
how they did
I
that.
don't either.
Okay, guys, you're right. There was a lot of that cool shit going on, and to me, it was just like, okay, like you're doing all these tricks, like it just over and it's distracting me from the movie.
I've watched a lot of Netflix movies the last 5-6 years, and I think it. I don't know what their budgets are going to because they're being blown on the CG. And I would say 9 out of 10 times the CG is just like this in every single Netflix special.
Guys, what's the point of this scene?
I have no idea.
The eclipse on the moon?
Yeah, I have no idea. They
Okay,
showed the
okay,
eclipse
This
of
is
the
this is the
American-
start of the third act.
Guy,
This
okay,
has to mean something.
I think I can speak to this a little
Okay.
bit. There's all this totally
Symbolism?
ambiguous
Ambrosial.
bullshit in this movie that never gets explained, and that's just another one.
Oh wait, what was the,
That's the only one.
wait? What
that I
act
don't
was
know.
what act was
Can
this,
I just
though?
throw another one out there?
Well, here's another one take.
Sorry,
I'm
wait,
sorry,
wait.
guys. This movie's blowing me away. But
Yeah.
this is a one take all the way from her waking up to him taking his teeth out. It does not cut. But anyway, yeah, let's go back. Sorry,
So-
Nick. I got too excited for a second
There's
there.
so much ambiguous bullshit in
the-
this movie that is ambiguous for the sake of being
I
ambiguous.
can explain every scene in this movie to you. Not that I'm right,
Okay,
but I
I got-
can
I got
explain
one
every
for you.
scene except for that
I got
solar
one for
eclipse.
you.
What?
Okay, and I really want to know what because there might be something for this, and I don't know what it is. Okay, remember the sort of like that little cabin shack thing behind the house? Remember there's like an indentation in the leaves where someone had been sleeping or something?
Yeah.
Please
Yeah.
tell me what was going on there. Who was sleeping there? What was?
I don't know. I assumed
Was
it was
that-
the neighbor that was the awkward, creepy Kevin Bacon. Maybe I don't know.
No, that doesn't make any sense. He has a nice house and
And then why did they
The
allude
family?
to the fact that they can see through the window and like it made it seem like there was someone watching them, but there wasn't.
I
Right.
think
It was
I think,
just to be stupid.
I think
Yeah.
that's an older brother trying to creep out his younger sister.
No, there was literally an indentation in the leaves that
Agreed.
looked like someone was
I
sleeping
think that
on.
somebody was sleeping there, and I think that when you look at the houses nearby, they had been looted and broken into by vandals, and I think that the vandals could have just very easily stayed the night there. I don't know. There's vandals in the area. There's houses that have been looted and destroyed and having stuff stolen from. I agree. That's not a very strong scene, but I do think that it showcases brother and sister. That scene is like where they shine. They have a whole long conversation where she's like, she hits her head. She's mad at him, and then she's sort of telling him stuff. And I don't know. There's payoff to the scene. Why they have to show the indentation? I don't know, but like it's at least it's not like the solar eclipse scene. That there was money spent on that scene. It was its entirely own separate clip with nothing to do with anything else, and clearly it's very symbolic.
I thought it was like the symbolism of America at its peak, getting to the moon before Russia and the rest of the world, and it's now a solar eclipse showing pure darkness, and then it goes into the dark, twisted part of part 4 or 5, something like that for this film.
5.
Yeah, so I think that's just a simple visual to show like this is the dark side of America now. Like
Okay,
this is.
so because you see the American flag and it gets
that
darkened.
represents what 1960s peak America.
So maybe they're saying, look at the peak of what America has done, and
Look at what we accomplished as a country,
There's
yeah.
an eclipse. There's
and then
a
it cuts
darkness
to the next
falling on
scene
it.
and it shows the twisted
I
Civil
could buy that.
War. Yeah.
I could buy that. Good call out, by the way, on the indentation. I'm making a stretch there, but at least it's within a scene that needs to be there.
Or
All
it's
I'm
nothing
saying
as
is-
the brother being a dick.
I think
had
there
a
are maybe
brother-
other, and we might even get to these, but I think there were a lot of things in this movie that were ambiguous for the sake of being ambiguous, and that frustrated me. Let's keep moving. I'm going to
think
say
a little
this,
harder,
I'm gonna,
Nick, okay?
I'm going to say this. I want to stop thinking about this movie. Believe me. I'm going to say this sentence, and I will not elaborate on this sentence. And you guys can react to this however you want. This movie reminds me of Crash, the Paul Haggis movie.
Because of the forced like differences of
Not answering any
people.
questions.
Yeah, okay.
No questions.
Okay.
I can see the comparison, but this is a good movie, and Crash is a fucking awful movie.
Well, I agree with half that statement.
I haven't seen it in a long time. So
I appreciated this movie for being a soft R. This movie could have really easily been a PG-13. Take out some F-bombs, it's a PG-13.
wait, was it rated R?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even notice. Okay,
I respect that.
Okay, cool.
Well, there was a masturbation scene.
What?
Yeah, the kid
Um,
to the
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah,
I think you again you could have just cut that out because it wasn't even a full scene. It was like he just gives up. He feels
Yeah,
bad
great.
and
I
gives
thought
up.
it was stupid.
So why do you think that was? Oh, you think it was like unnecessary?
Yeah, I was just like, this is uncomfortable and weird. Why am I watching this movie?
I just think he's oblivious. He's again, like I said in Brian's corner, he represents oblivion. He's like he doesn't give a shit. He's just gonna do whatever he
You're
wants.
not wrong.
I don't know.
You're not wrong.
Real quick. So I said the soft art. Clay cites the Atlantic and NPR. Do we know where he leans politically? I think it was funny that he cites both of those specific. Quick question, you guys. Who's your MVP of the movie? Director, sound, cinematographer, one of the actors.
For me, it's got to be Kevin Bacon.
Oh,
Mine's the DP.
Yeah, I was gonna say the
Yeah.
cinematographer and DP and Mahershala was solid, but I think definitely cinematography.
yeah. I think I'm gonna go. Yeah, director of photography. Yeah.
Winner.
All right, I'm just going to read a little bit of dialogue here and just a couple of reactions I had in between the dialogue, and you guys can just absorb this. So, Julia Roberts' speech about everyone fucking everyone over, that was kind of the moment when I had sort of had it. I had already had enough, and that was the point where I just had to stop the movie and just take the dog out and just walk a little bit. When Ruth says, "I'm not down with most of what you just said, but this is the part of the Venn diagram where we overlap." And I wrote, "Shoot me."
She sounds like a 17-year-old girl.
Okay.
Correct.
Maybe I just don't like how 17-year-old girls talk, but
And I loved that scene.
Because you don't hang out with 17.
I love that because that's when they came
we gotta
together.
Say it a couple more times.
That's when they came together. That's when both of their arcs shined, and they came to an agreement. And from then on, they're on each other's side.
right, when Julia Roberts says, "We're all we've got."
Yeah,
It's fucking
it's a
This
movie.
movie
Shoot me,
was
man.
Nick, it's a movie, man.
this is penultimate character arcs for Brian here.
Ugh.
He was so hyped up.
I didn't even talk about my character arcs, but I basically already did in
Yeah,
Brian's corner.
yeah.
But I mean, just for instance, do you guys remember why Amanda plans this vacation?
Yeah, to get away from people.
She hates people. That's the one reason why she plans it.
What a day to pick that.
And at the very end of the movie, she risks her life to save somebody who's the least likely person she would ever want to save. I mean, come on.
She risks her
These are
life
great
on
arcs.
some deer? What are they going to do? Nudge her to death?
There's 50 deer with antlers who are approaching somebody. I think if you buy into the fact that that's what the deer are doing, which I say I don't think deer would do that, but if they're doing that, I don't necessarily think you're going to jump into that situation.
Can we get our analyst or maybe our research person to check out deer goring stats from last year? So many people
Fact
were
check
gored
that
by
for sure.
deers.
Let us know in the comments below.
No. You're misunderstanding. That's my point. Is that deer don't do that, but this movie's saying they're doing that for whatever reason, whether it's the sound that they heard or whatever. So we're buying that they're going to do.
Radiation,
They're buying that they are approaching this girl. Can we not agree? They are all approaching this girl. That's scary. Whether or not they should do that, that's my point. Is that they shouldn't do that, but they are doing that, and that's when she jumps in. So I think that
I guess I just didn't see her as my only point of contention was her risking her life. I will say that big main alpha deer, he did look mean.
I know.
He
I think
did
that
look
was the whole
mean.
point of the scene was she
All
risked
right.
her life.
I've got a stat. You are way more likely to be killed by deer than sharks, bears, and gators combined.
Well, yeah, because they jump in front of your fucking
don't
car.
don't fucking backpedal, Nick.
Because they jump in front of your car. When's the last time a shark jumped in front of your car?
But
That's,
he said,
that's a
man.
very
Last
misleading
fall
stat.
when I was in Florida,
but he said gators.
driving on the beach.
He said gators, bro.
The deadliest animals' average annual
But
deaths.
it's all car accidents.
Are
How many? I wanna
top or
know
deer?
Gorings.
Okay,
Gorings.
while Ben looks up the gorings, can we talk about something way more important, you
So
guys?
specific.
This is so important. All right. Do you guys remember when Rose, who's the youngest 13-year-old girl?
Yeah.
Rose. Remember when she's sitting in the house eating all this junk food and the snack food, right?
Home Alone.
She has a mouth full, jowls full of junk food. And then she pounds like 5 pints of liquid in her mouth with all that junk food. And it mixes together in her mouth.
She's eating chips,
Do
obviously.
you guys put liquid and solids in your mouth at the same time? And if
No.
you do, what kind of monster are you?
She's a pure psychopath
No,
for that
but I
scene
feel
alone.
like but this is I'll defend that. I think that's something a 13-year-old goofball would do. Would I do it?
At least,
No.
Macaulay Culkin ate just one thing at a time,
Yeah.
ice cream or pizza or whatever.
It's like if she was that thirsty to where she had to chug water, like, here, let me just first
she pounded
put
that white grape juice.
5. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry. Continue.
All right. So I already touched on this earlier, but I want to bring it up again because this is something that really pissed me off about this movie. That they just ran through all the fear-mongering news things of the last 5 years. You know, the satellites going down, the self-driving cars being taken over, the Cuban noise attacks. It's just like jam it all in. Just get it all in there, Obama. You know, just make sure every single thing that scared us over the last 5 years is part of this movie. I just thought that felt cheap, and I thought and fear-mongering is what I just. I didn't like it.
Of any of those singular things, which one would you rather have the focal point be? If it was only one of those that was the focal point for this movie, or the fear of this movie?
I don't know that it really matters. I guess it's just that the point is that I feel like this movie was trying so hard to scare me based on quote unquote real world concerns that it just didn't. It was just like, okay, this is just stupid because you're trying to jam it all in.
But I don't think the movie's trying to scare us with those. I think the movie's trying to show us that we're trying to scare each other with those things, because it's people that are telling other people that, and that's what people are that's what you hear people saying on social media, and you know, like that's what the movie's saying. I don't think the movie's trying to, because the movie doesn't sit here and say that's what happened. The movie's saying there's something happening, and then all these humans turn on each other because of the fear mongering. So that's to me where I think there's a little nuance there.
Okay, all right, I won't argue with that. All right, here's something. We're pretty close here. Oh, geez. So GH is going to put his life on the line for Ethan Hawke's son to get medicine, speculative medicine, that may or may not exist. What?
He knew he was a doomsday prepper. He had it all, so he just went to him because he assumed he had everything he needed.
I think he was just going to get antibiotics, right?
What is this miracle bacon medicine?
Well, it's antibiotics, right?
And that was just, and so he's going to put his life on the line because he's sure antibiotics are going to save the life.
No, he was sure that
of
he had the
rotten
answer.
tooth boy.
He just assumed that he had the answer to what may be going on, because he talked about the sound wave things, the radiation or the radio waves, and he knew about all that. So he knew that he was going to be prepared for some type of solution for that.
I think he made two assumptions, but I don't think he had any other choice. The first of them being, my son was bitten by a tick and has Lyme disease. He needs antibiotics, which is valid. Number two, well, where am I going to get him near here? Well, I can't get to the city. There's a guy who's a prepper who probably has antibiotics, which a prepper would have. So, and you know him and you're his friend. Okay, let's go to his house. I think those are the two assumptions he makes. Now, sacrificing his life, I think maybe at that point, that just is there to show his character arc fully being realized. But yeah, a little bit of a stretch because he doesn't know if he's got it or not. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, taking a bullet on some assumptions like that seems like a stretch.
Yeah, there's a stretch of assumptions there.
I love how he also just gave him a handful of like these blue pills that look like a fucking fistful of Viagra.
But again, the question is, what choice does he have at that point in time? He doesn't have a lot of choice, so he kind of does the only thing he can do.
I like when GH said to Bacon, "You're a very prepared man." And Bacon said, "Fuck yeah, I am."
Fuck yeah, I am.
That was my favorite line.
Yeah,
of the whole
that was
movie.
good. That was good.
Very Trimmer-esque. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good movie, by the way.
Oh, fantastic.
Trimmers.
I'm just going to read this note. I mean, you can just kind of surmise the state of mind I was in, but the only thing that saves this movie is Rosie hovering inside a magnetic energy ball over in New York City like Magneto, and she's the real antagonist.
That would have been a cool ending.
I love the creativity of that. Wouldn't necessarily match. I would watch that alternate ending just for, reference.
That brings this movie up like 60 points for me.
Whoa. Wow. That's a big jump.
Yeah. If she's just hovering over there's like the Empire State Building, it's like in a magnetic ball, just like blasting shit.
How do you explain
at
that?
the end?
A big giant light.
How do you
straight
explain
to the
anything
sky?
in this movie? That's kind of my whole point.
Yeah, but like you're going back on your point by wanting to put something in that you also couldn't explain, and it would raise
Because
it
it
by
fits
60
the movie
points.
perfectly. Anyway,
Well, okay. Doesn't the movie already fit itself perfectly?
Brian, I hate this movie too much to argue.
For 3 out of 4 of us, it does.
I'll just keep going.
I'm not even, yeah.
I know. I kid.
Okay, I'm almost done here. I think they thought that shot of the bomb hitting the city when the holding hands, I guess you guys seem like you really thought that was profound. I thought that was fucking stupid. I thought it was like the moment where they're like, oh, everyone's going to get chills when they see the mushroom cloud.
Yeah, they could have done better with that.
I was just like, eesh.
The only thing unrealistic about that was that they were that close to being able to see a vista of the entire skyline, and they can only see it when they're like in that one spot where like the trees open up. Like the geography of that was a little unrealistic to me. But the shot was great.
Yeah, they weren't hours outside of New York. Like they seemed like they were definitely reachable for people in the city.
I just feel like everybody in the editing suite was like fist bumping on that shot. Like, fucking great shot, bro.
Like it wasn't like a massive nuclear explosion to destroy the city. It was like small. It was mediocre.
It was a little understated.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It was multiple. It was small.
No, it was very understated. I don't think that was like the shot of the
And then
movie.
you saw the helicopters and you heard the machine gun firing, so you knew there was a civil war going on.
I think what that did was answer the sort of premise that GH put forward, that this is what's happening. And then the movie finally pulls back and shows you. I feel like we've been grasping to see like what really is happening. I get that. We want to know what's going on. And it zooms out and it's like, oh, that's what's going on. Exactly what GH said is what's going on. Then we get to the bunker and we see the actual message. And it's like, okay, there we go. So I think that scene needed to be there to sort of explain the movie to us. And it also beautifully shows these two characters who are completely at odds sort of hold hands in the face of the end of the world. Good scene.
Speaking of that sort of like panic room thing, this is just a little thing, but isn't it like kind of weird and amazing how who has a giant safe panic room door in the middle of their house just sitting there? Not only just there, this giant steel door, and it's just open. Like she just walks into this room like there's no... That just seemed weird. Once again, that's a tiny little thing. I just thought that was stupid.
she did get in there very easily. I assume these rich people were also at the opera.
Why would it be locked if no one's in it, though?
Because you don't want anybody to jump in and lock the door.
It's your house, though. Like
it's full of valuable stuff. It's not. It's a secret room. I think the whole point of a panic room or like room is to like have it be hidden and secret, not like a giant steel door in the middle of your main vestibule
that a small child could find. I agree with you.
That
there.
just seems stupid.
Yeah.
Little thing.
Yeah,
Nitpick.
you're right. They could have hidden it better.
Okay. Real quick, I want to touch back on the hysterical Hispanic woman. I think Brian, you kind of answered this earlier when you talked about Ethan Hawke, but I struggled to see like what that added to the movie, and I know I already know your answer to that and how it kind of developed his character in a way, but that was just another thing to me that, and I get that argument, but it was just another kind of ambiguous thing that didn't pan out or turn into anything really interesting at all, that I thought was going to lead to something later interesting or relevant to that scene, and it just never did.
Well, I think it leads to the whole point that it's a we're turning on each other. I think he tries to go to town. He's useless without GPS, so he doesn't know how to get there. But he does run into somebody who confirms the fact that some shit's happening. People are looting. People are starting to turn, and I think that's the whole point of that. Well, and it leads to him sort of having turmoil in being ineffective. So it kind of accomplishes two things at once. It was
a very intense scene that I thought it was going to have implications on the plot, and it did not. It had implications on character development, but I don't think it had any implication on the plot. I don't
know. I guess I would just say that something that very directly serves to bolster someone's character arc is, in essence, service of the plot. To me, it's enough service.
I think it's just a tease of the external of what's happening outside of their little tiny happening inside that house, and this little,
it's like foreshadowing that you're going to see these other houses get broken into and stuff happen. I don't know.
To me, it just added to that ambiguous frustration that I've been venting all night. Just more ambiguity.
And I think that's what the movie was trying to get us to do, because I think if a real end of the world scenario happened, I think that's what would happen. We would all be confused. We would all be like, what the fuck's going on? And we would be trying to discern what's going on, and we wouldn't have communication. And I think the movie was very viscerally put us into that situation. So, yes, it was very ambiguous, and yes, I think that was very intentional. And I think you probably did not like that. I appreciated that because it gave me that sense of dread, and it made me feel something. And we're talking about on a previous episode how if a movie can make you feel something, even if that's not a good thing, if it makes you feel something, that's something. And this movie made me feel that sense of dread.
Yeah, for sure.
I usually agree with that. But if the feelings are anger and frustration, I start to not agree as much. But I generally agree with that statement. Something I should have said an hour ago that I think would have maybe helped just people understand a little bit my position. I really don't like apocalyptic thrillers. Like historically, I have never really liked I like kind of like horror themed, like a zombie movie. Like I'm totally into. Like something like The Road, that comes to mind. which is kind of has a similar vibe in
Yes,
some ways. as
yeah, I
this.
agree.
Really just don't like this kind of movie at all. And I don't know why that is, but I've just kind of always hated that genre. So that colors some of my judgment about this film anyway. So just to say that.
I'm sure that did not
Way
help
too
your
late.
rating. Yeah.
Okay, I've got last thing. This is the last thing I got, guys, for the slowest burn of slow burns. Did you guys know who the initial choice was, and apparently had been progressing and seemed like it was going to be the person for the role of GH?
No.
That didn't end up actually being GH. Denzel Washington was attached to
Nice.
this movie for a while.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a different feel.
it is.
Much different.
Ooh.
It is.
He would have been louder, I think.
I like that movie.
I think I would have liked it better.
That's a
with Denzel.
94 without
And-
even seeing it.
And to take nothing away from Mr. Ali,
No, nothing, no.
He actually was one of the brighter spots I thought in this movie. He was probably my second favorite character. But yeah, Denzel could have done some interesting stuff.
let's be honest. If you're compared to Denzel and you're not quite as good as him, you could still be fucking amazing.
Oh
'cause
yeah,
Denzel's
yeah.
the best.
Denzel is he is.
He was too busy doing Equalizer 3.
Yeah, Denzel is that. He seemed. I mean, yeah, great actor,
They
great
probably couldn't
human.
afford
Seems
him.
like a great human.
Yeah.
like from everything I can tell. So anyway, Denzel, we love you, buddy.
Best Denzel performance.
I'm sure he's listening right now.
He is a listener. Thank you, bud.
Thanks, Denzel. We appreciate you, bub. All right, I'm done. I'm done. Brian, you said you had a thing or two.
Best Denzel performance. Crimson Tide. Well, no, I was gonna give my kind of final thoughts about why the movie's good. So
Yeah,
if we're there, we
Let's do
can
it.
we can go or whatever. So I mean, this movie is so good on so many levels. I talked about the music, the production quality, the framing and blocking of the scenes in this movie. I mean, there are scenes where there are many different scenes of dialogue between two people where it's not just a shot reverse shot. It's somebody who's facing the side of the screen that they're closest to. And there's like this irregular amount of negative space behind them. And then the reverse shot is the same on the other person. And it's almost like, first I was like, just move the camera. Like, why is there so much negative space? And I realized it was intentional. It's like,
Yeah.
it's almost like we're not able to see what these characters are looking at or their vantage point. And it's cloudy as to what's going to happen. It serves to sort of disorientate.
Yeah.
So the framing and tracking and just camera work is amazing. Genre blending I had. It's a disaster movie. It's a drama. It's a social commentary. It's a mystery thriller. It's all of those things. It could have just been a disaster movie, you know what I mean? But like it was so much more than that. It really aimed high and it hit all its marks. I love how it keeps you guessing. You're never really sure if this is GH's house. We talked about this before, Nick, where you kind of said like, it was really heavy-handed that they were mysterious, so we knew that they weren't. Well, for me, it didn't come off that way for me. That's all I can speak to. That's not the effect it had on me. I was always guessing, what's going to happen? Is he going to reveal something? Is this actually not their house? So and then the bigger thing, what's going on with this disaster? Why is the internet out? What's going on? So it kept me guessing, and I appreciate movies that keep me guessing. It was big but small. I talked about that. 7 actors with lines. But it felt a lot bigger of a movie than that. The pacing, there's just enough space between each major event in the movie to where the movie's able to breathe and you're able to have these dialogue moments, these long dialogue moments between these characters, and then this big thing happens, and then there's processing. It's up and down, up and down. It doesn't just ratchet from start to finish, and it ends, kind of down a little bit, which is neat. And then the tone, I love how it's eerie, haunting, suspenseful, mysterious. The tone is very, it could have not worked, but it worked, the tone. And then we talked about the ending, but I love the ending to this movie. It is so cathartic for me. It's the best way this movie could have ended. And then the last thing I'll say is, we've talked about the camera work, and you guys, I actually document, I'm not going to read these, but there are 23 specific sequences in this movie where the camera does something that it did not have to do. They could have just filmed it in a standard static camera, but they did something either with CGI or the camera's always moving through space and it's pulling up. And one of the things I love about this movie, there's so many times where the camera is in the house and it pulls up and away from the characters to an unrealistically huge room that wouldn't really be in a house. And it makes the characters feel really small. And that's the purpose of the movie, is these characters do feel small because they don't know what's happening in the world. They're feeling small and uninformed. And I love the fact that it's always going up and over walls from interior to exterior. It's going from third floor bedroom to first floor to basement, cutting through floorboards. It's moving in and out of glass. There's a great scene at the end where Nick, where you talk about they're holding hands and the camera sort of moves up. It's almost like a drone shot. It moves up and it shows the skyline and it pans over and it shows like the Brooklyn Bridge kind of collapse and everything. And then in one take, it kind of goes all the way down and it zooms without breaking shots all the way down into that house where Rose is chowing down on all those snacks, and it goes through that little hole in the window and it continues all the way around with no cuts. There's so many times in this movie where there's one takes like that. The Tesla scene where they're it's almost like Alfonso Cuarón, Children of Men car scene. I mean, the camera is dodging and weaving and going in and out, but it's not making you sick. It's really giving you spatial understanding of what's going on. And all of those things are so artistically, this is the shot I'm talking about here. It's a one shot from here. It goes all the way into the dining room table where old girl's chowing down. And I'm sorry, but that is quality filmmaking, and it's not required. It's not necessary, but yet they do it. And I really respect the film for all those reasons I just said. So, that's my TED Talk.
Final thought
on why this movie is a 92.
Yeah, I strongly agree with a lot of those things. I mean, the character buildup, I think what it is it's got plenty of mystery and intrigue. It holds my attention while also allowing me to think and ponder like the motives and the outcomes of these little tiny details, these character arcs, all that stuff. Like the details in this are just incredible. I think I could watch.
How do they even do this? Like we haven't cut.
It's a drone.
So it's a drone, but then what is it? Does it turn into handheld?
Yeah. So drone down to the door, and then once it gets close enough to the door, there's a little cut scene. So right when you get to the frame,
door is fake.
The door is fake.
Door's fake.
So as soon as it comes here, right when it closes out the whole red door, pop. Then it goes straight through the door, single-handed, all the way through.
Cut too.
It's a good cut,
That's a cut.
man.
Yep.
It's
really
I don't
nice.
even notice it. That's
And
really
it goes straight
good.
through the house.
Sorry, guys, keep going.
No, but I think the attention to detail, and then you could watch breakdown videos of this. I think that's why it's become so viral. Of the explain the ending, but also the breakdown of the details that went into this, the backgrounds that Ben talked about earlier, the imagery of the walls of the house, like all those things, just completely add up for me to have rewatchability. Continue to eat this movie alive, like just continue to digest things in it.
Good story, good themes, good arcs, good characters, great craftsmanship.
Yep.
All right, so before I give my final soliloquy here, I just want to thank our sponsor, Old Elk. Thank you for being awesome.
One thing we can all agree on is that Old Elk is ambrosial as shit.
Yeah, ambrosial, I think is how it was described.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I won't belabor this. I saw this movie trying. I saw this movie trying so hard, too hard, trying to be deep, trying to be unconventional. All those fancy shots you guys just talked about, it was all super cute. It was like a film reel. It was like a beautiful film reel. Trying to be beautiful, right? Trying to be simple. Trying to play with my emotions and failing. It was so intentional in all of these ways, I thought, to a fault. There was nothing that felt natural about this movie to me. I hated the characters. I hated the kind of rampant ambiguity I've already bitched about a lot. I thought the writing was mostly bad to mediocre. There was some good writing in here. It wasn't all bad, but I didn't like it. I think this movie tried to make me work for something that I didn't care about or want, and ultimately just came off to me as just sort of vapid and sort of soulless. And it didn't end up saying anything to me profound about humanity or the human condition, despite, I think, the movie trying desperately to do that. So I think I've made it very clear I really hated this movie. However, gentlemen, I am going to raise my score.
Oh my God. This is the greatest day of my life.
Oh my God.
You are human.
Score.
You have a soul.
I'm going to raise my score to a 12.
Oh, thank God.
Okay?
I respect you so hard.
Ultimately, it did. And you know what? And a big part of me doing that, Brian, is it made me feel something. It did. And those were the things I really didn't want to feel, frustration and anger. But I did feel something, and I felt something more than I felt with Indiana Jones, which I felt was just a franchise that got totally bastardized.
Yeah, good call.
So I will give a slight bump.
I was just getting ready to compliment you before you raised your score, and now I'm really going to do it. What you just said, how'd you phrase that? This movie tried to make you care about something that you didn't want to spend the time caring about or something, and then you use the word vapid or whatever. Like that was, to me, that summed up that made me understand very profoundly your score. Tried to make you care about something that you do. How'd you say that? Tried to make you care about something that you didn't want to care about?
You're going to have to rewind.
I'm going to rewind the podcast.
I definitely can't say it again. Thanks to our sponsor. Roll
I will rewind this as I listen to it after it's released. But yeah, good thoughts.
All right, guys. That was a hell of an episode. Goodness gracious, what a critical mess that was.
That's
tonight.
what we want. Woo! Literally, it's like those credits are rolling and we're done. So that's maybe that means this
new
is way
movie
too
juju.
long.
I feel like I feel like Mike Lowry. Woo! Woo!
Hey, did you see Bad Boys 5 coming out or 4?
That'd be 4. No,
Coming
I
out
didn't.
4
Is that
coming out.
that a
it
thing?
was just announced like yesterday.
Wow.
Wait, Grizz,
I
let's
did
not
not
ruin
see
let's
that.
not ruin this.
I just want to get him
please.
excited
Chris,
before
thanks
we
for
get
making
on
my
it.
day.
Let's not ruin-
Thanks
let's
for
not
making
ruin
my
this.
day, buddy.
I got to pump him up. You know?
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Let's put
buddy.
it this way. We've been wanting to disagree on a movie for a while, and the last 2 episodes we've done that, and let's keep it going. Keep it rolling.
Yes, sir. Well, speaking of that, we're going to do another episode. We're always threatening to do another episode.
Don't make us.
And this one, I'm not going to lie, guys. I'm excited about.
We're
this
not
one.
going to disagree
I'm
on
we'll
this
see.
one.
It's maybe been a little while.
Maybe,
since we've
okay.
seen it. I
We'll
don't
come
know.
in objectively.
So we are going to do the Wesley Snipes vehicle, Blade, the original Blade, the first Blade, and I am fucking excited.
Yep.
Let me just tell you all about that. So, but I haven't watched the whole thing in a little while. I've sometimes I'll watch a scene or two on YouTube because I do kind of like that movie. Spoiler. But I haven't watched the whole thing in a while, so we'll see how it holds up.
It's been 20 years for me. I can't wait to see if it holds up.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
All right. We are Critical Mess. You can find us www.instagram.com/Critical Mess Crew. Critical Mess Crew. Holler at us. If you comment or say anything, we'll read it. We'll say it.
Instagram, Threads, TikTok, all of them.
Guys, we will read your thing. You can literally say something and we'll read it.
Maybe.
It's true.
As long as it doesn't violate the First Amendment.
And we'll probably just read it.
We'll maybe read it. Yeah, anyways, communicate with us. We'd like that. So yeah, this has been Critical Mess. Big ol' mess tonight. We had a lot of fun. Thanks for listening, and we're gonna see y'all next time.
See ya.
Later.